again, not just by the corporate press and by Joe Biden, but by actual, spies and CIA operatives and former heads of the CIA, 5 former heads of the CIA, in fact, either 4 or 5, said that, yeah, this is, they didn't exactly, but they went, this has all the telltale signs. There's Russian fingerprints all over it, blah, 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 all this shit. So it's just kind of interesting that when you're in the middle of this conflict where there's this narrative about how, there's an unprovoked attack by Vladimir Putin, who's the worst person in the world, and Ukraine is this great country, and we all must support Ukraine in their defense against the invasion from the Russians, and then here you have this story that's just like, oh, this is falling into people's laps, of course, was heavily censored, but is now, they for whatever reason, which maybe it is that there's an indictment about to come down, maybe there's something else that we don't know about that's going on here, or maybe they just feel like they have to report on it at this point. I don't know. But the fact that now you have this story out there just kind of reminding everybody, it at least complicates that narrative a little bit, right? Like you go, oh, well, there was this clear corruption involving the former vice president, sitting president's son, and this country, Ukraine. And oh, yeah, a whole bunch of people tried to claim that Russia was committing this horrible act against America that was complete bullshit. Just kind of throws a little bit like, oh, okay, so there's a little bit more to this story. I don't know. It's just very interesting, the timing now that those 2 countries who are at war right now are both so heavily involved in this story. I think the point you made about tech censorship and all that stuff is spot on as well. I think that we, as I've been saying for a long time on this show, I think that, and I was arguing with a libertarian guy the other day, in a libertarian party group. And he was basically saying that, look, I think libertarians just shouldn't even talk about cultural issues. We should just focus on government overreach and promote liberty because, I understand where he was coming from. I think he was basically saying that it's look, you get into these cultural issues and it always pisses off a whole group of people, and it's this isn't really what libertarians should care about anyway, so we just shouldn't talk about it. We shouldn't have anything to say about culture. And I really disagree with that. And I understand why some people feel that way. And I may have even agreed with that at one time, but I don't agree with it anymore. For a lot of reasons. Number one, it's we're in the middle of a white hot culture war in this country, and you just can't have nothing to say about that. You got to have something to say about the thing that so many people care about the most if you're going to talk to people, even if it's just something to explain what created this culture war, which I think is a big part of what libertarians should talk about. And part of that is because they're all so interrelated, it's very hard to strip away, what is just government policy and what is a culture issue? I mean, think about the cultural changes in this country over the last 2 years. All of the COVID stuff. There's been this cultural norm of wearing a mask now. But is that removed from government policies? Well, no, they were mandated all over the place and completely promoted by the political class and the media class. I mean, lockdowns changed the culture, and then something even the bills we were talking about the other week, what's it called? I think it's the parental rights act or whatever that they just passed in Florida, what's being inaccurately called the Don't Say Gay bill, or the ban on.
You're 6 minutes away from a live episode of Free Talk Live. Listen live at freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. There's been further international condemnation of Russia after Ukraine accused Russian forces of being responsible for a massacre in the city of Bucha, near Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Photographs and videos released by Ukrainian authorities and news agencies appear to show bodies scattered in the streets of Bucha, some with their hands tied behind their backs. In an interview with CBS's Face the Nation, Ukraine's president accused Russia of committing acts of genocide in his country. Here's Volodymyr Zelensky speaking through a government interpreter.
The elimination of the whole nation and the people, this is destruction and extermination of all these nationalities.
US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken told CNN the images from Bucha were a punch to the gut. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres also called for an independent investigation into the alleged atrocities in Bucha, but Russia has denied responsibility for the killing of civilians. Here's Ollie Barrett, our correspondent in Riga, Latvia.
Russia is denying the allegations with regards to Bucha. It says that this is fake, and it also says that the Ukrainians have published these images from Bucha as a provocation. So pretty strong pushback from Moscow, but very, very strong words coming from international leader after international leader, particularly here on the European continent.
Sri Lanka's cabinet has resigned following mounting pressure over the country's spiralling economic crisis. On Sunday, several peaceful demonstrations took place in the capital Colombo, despite a 36-hour government curfew. In the city of Kandy, police used tear gas and water cannon against protesting students. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had declared a state of emergency and blocked access to social media following violent protests last week sparked by growing public anger against his administration. People have been facing lengthy power cuts, some lasting up to 13 hours, as well as skyrocketing food prices. A severe shortage of foreign currency, partly due to a pandemic-related drop in tourism, combined with the 2019 tax cut, has meant the government hasn't been able to pay for essential imports such as fuel and medicine. A shooting in the California capital has left at least 6 people dead and 10 people hospitalized. Sacramento police are asking the public for help in identifying any suspects. Rachel Silverman has more.
Sacramento's mayor has attributed the tragedy to the epic of gun violence in the United States. The shooting occurred at about 2 a.m. local time in an area lined with bars and restaurants just blocks from the state capitol building. Video posted on social media showed people running through the street with the sound of rapid gunfire in the background. Sacramento police say they have not yet determined if the victims were deliberately targeted or how many shooters were involved.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the complexities of holding Vladimir Putin, his top advisors and individual Russian commanders to account for the war crimes that appear to have been committed in Bucha, just outside Kiev. Our guide to the thicket in which the international community will soon find itself is Sir Mark Lyle Grant, the British government's former national security advisor.
The key first step is to gather the evidence, and that should be relatively easy, given that there are a lot of journalists present on the ground and the Russians are now withdrawing. The International Criminal Court prosecutor has started an investigation, but Russia itself, as a country, is not a member of the ICC. It pulled out in 2016, so very difficult to hold Russia directly to account. The best avenue, therefore, is that the ICC can issue individual arrest warrants when they identify those responsible for individual war crimes. But of course, those individuals, being Russian, would have to be extradited from Russia or to travel abroad and then be arrested when they were abroad. So it's going to be extremely difficult in practice to hold either President Putin or indeed any of his soldiers to account for individual crimes they've committed.
And the US government, already accusing Russia of war crimes, also does not recognise the International Criminal Court. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main headlines again. Ukraine accuses Russian forces of committing a massacre in the city of Bucha. Moscow denies the allegations, but it faces overwhelming international condemnation. Sri Lanka's cabinet has resigned following mounting pressure over the country's spiralling economic crisis. And a shooting in Sacramento has left at least 6 people dead and 10 people hospitalized. And that is the latest from Feature Story News. I'm Jagruti Dave in Washington.
I got my first Barbie when I was 37 years old. And even when I was younger, I knew I didn't need to look like her to feel good about myself. And just because Barbie has a size 0 waist and wears dark makeup, does that mean that's the only way to be beautiful? I mean, what kind of message does that send to men like me? I always remember that this is just a silly toy, and it shouldn't change the way I look at myself. And if anyone has a problem with me being myself, well, then they're probably not really my friends. I also don't just play with Barbies. I play with Legos and Mega Bloks, because while I definitely like Barbies, I like building things too, and I'm actually really good at it. My name is Tim Mortensen. I'm 43 years old, and I know that I don't need to be defined by Barbie. I can be whoever I want to be.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Oh, sure, Peakless. Just come in and start breaking the studio right off the bat.
That's what I do.
That's how you do. I have seen you stumble and tumble and do a somersault and then kind of get back up. So I know you have what I call excellent recovery when it comes to these types of things. So I will fret not. That's a guitar player joke. Fret not. You are listening to Free Talk Live. We are a live call-in radio program where you can call in, take control of the airwaves, talk about whatever you want. If you don't like the subjects we're talking about, great, call in, change it. Or you can talk about what we're talking about if you want to comment on any of that. In the studio tonight, it is myself. I am your host, the Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass Buckshot Esquire, if you will. Joining me,
Peakless Mountaineer.
Octopodes. Oh, wait, that was last week.
I did point at you, though, so excellent recall.
Richie Rich.
You missed out on the dinner earlier. I had invented a whole business for Richie Rich that sounds shady AF, right? It's Richie Rich payday loans and pawn.
Which ironically enough,
possibly go wrong.
Which ironically enough, I had already considered whether or not that was the name. I have loan sharked for some friends in the past and lost money because dude, you're gonna owe me back a lot of interest, and then they died and I never got the money.
Oh,
I know, sad, but still, he owed me money, and I didn't want to kneecap him because he was still cool.
Who wants to dig for 6 feet to break a kneecap? I mean, it's just
that makes me less confident in this whole business plan.
But at the same time, at the dinner, I have considered a payday loan business. For the very fact that before cryptocurrency came along, it seemed to me that payday loans was the easiest way for anyone to become the bank.
Yeah.
No, become the bank.
Oh, become the bank, right? Yeah.
Right. They was well, you got to be if you're gonna get wealthy, you got to be the bank.
Try not to do that while we're live on the air. You're making all sorts of noise, or hit that button so that it's not making noise when you do that. I appreciate you fixing the studio though.
Trying.
That's good. It's good. We like that. Yes. But maybe wait till break time.
But then he can't talk for the entire first segment.
Sure he can. Oh. Microphone's right there.
All right.
You're in front of it. Talk.
No.
See?
Okay, we're good.
All right.
But yeah, payday loan seems, before cryptocurrency, be the bank.
Yeah.
Because if you can fund it from the beginning, right, then you make the loans, you charge the exorbitant interest rate, and then profit.
Yeah.
Right? And then someone at dinner said well, how do you recoup the principal if they don't pay? I go, well, that's why you charge the exorbitant interest rate.
Well, how do you create money out of thin air when you make those loans? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, that would be more difficult, but it's still easier than starting a bank or a credit union or actually getting into the state financial system.
And so my
it's legitimate loan sharking.
My addition, my add-on, if you will, the module add-on of adding pawn shop to
absolutely.
that seems like a perfect marriage because pawn shops are generally the same sort of I don't want to call them rackets, right?
Okay.
But they're generally thought of in that same light as the payday loan places, right? They're oh, that's where you go to make seedy deals and get ripped off. As a musician, I've done plenty of business with pawn shops when I was poor, and I was I guess I better pawn a guitar for a while until I can generate that first paycheck at the next job or whatever, right? And I've lost many a musical item to the pawn shop as well.
But I looked into it here, not the pawn shop, but the payday loans, and it's prohibitively difficult to start one in New Hampshire. The risk, the state has artificially created a burden so great to overcome that it's almost impossible to be profitable here. So even there's a handful of payday loan places that operate in New Hampshire, but they also operate in many other states. Right. So I'm pretty sure that New Hampshire's got to be a lost leader for them because you could not operate one individually here in the state with the onerous rules and regulations that the state of New Hampshire has put on those people.
Interesting. That's kind of payday loans are. I'm going to refer to them as sort of old tech or old banking. You know, with cryptocurrency and everything now, like that's the new wave of banking. But I want to talk about something else that's a little bit older, and I want to talk about the return of Dumbphones.
I've got one.
Do you?
Well, I don't use it. I don't carry it with me, but I have one.
Is it a Nokia?
I don't even. I think it's an LG.
Okay, all right. So back in the day, your cell phone used to not even be able to browse the web. At best, you would be able to make and receive calls and send some text messages, but you often had to hit the digits on your phone multiple times to get to the correct letter.
Or if you had 2G or 3G data, man, you could almost browse Facebook on that tiny little screen.
Almost. But this from the BBC.
When you really wanted to leave a comment, man, and that's all you had at work.
Not smart, but clever. The return of Dumbphones. Instead of scrolling through apps like TikTok and Instagram all day, she uses a so-called dumb phone. These are basic handsets or feature phones with very limited functionality compared to, say, an iPhone or an Android phone. You can typically make and receive calls and SMS text messages, and that's about it. Unless you're lucky, you might be able to listen to the radio and take very basic photos, but definitely not connect to the internet or download and use any apps. I forgot that a lot of these phones used to include an AM/FM radio on them, so like you could plug the headset into the what do you call it, the slot where the headset goes, and like you could dial in the jack. Thank you, and dial in that's a phone joke. You could dial in the whatever local radio stations because it had a built-in FM receiver and an AM receiver too. I forgot about that.
But you know what the best thing those phones had? Tactile buttons.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Actual pushable buttons.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, if you want to go the circuitous route where you pay a little extra, you could get a BlackBerry, and then you could have your smartphone with the buttons.
I don't think they make those anymore.
No, the BlackBerries, so I used to do tech support for BlackBerries and Trios and Air Cards and that kind of stuff. The BlackBerries were glorified email machines.
Okay.
I mean, you can make and receive calls, the first ones anyway. And then I was trying to remember, it's Resource in Motion. RIM is their parent company. And we used to make fun of people who would get BlackBerries. Oh, you're getting RIM jobbed. Resources in Motion, whatever. Yeah. At any rate, these devices are similar to some of the first handsets that people bought back in the 1990s, and they show a picture of what looks like the Nokia and the LG flip phone of yesteryear. Miss West's decision to ditch her former smartphone 2 years ago was a spur-of-the-moment thing. While looking for a replacement handset in a second-hand shop, she was lured by the low price of a so-called brick phone. Her current handset from French firm MobileWire cost her just £8.
Hold on 1 second. The brick phone was very specific. It was that giant white phone that was the size of a brick.
So
really?
Like a modern day
I thought a brick
phone.
was what happened when you like tried to hack your smartphone and you screwed it up so you couldn't use it anymore.
That's when you brick something.
Right.
You can brick any device because it
so
turns
once you
it into
brick
a
a thing,
brick.
it isn't a brick.
No, when you brick a thing, it does become a brick instead of what it was supposed to be. So like my current iPhone, if I don't know, destroyed it in some way, now it's just a brick.
Because it's just as good as a brick.
There. Right, yeah.
But a feature phone is not a brick phone because in my conception.
So there's a brick phone, which is possibly one of the old school like huge giant battery, like you can only manage it if you have like a charger in your car that you can put it into.
That big rectangular white phone with the antenna sticking out of it.
Right. That's a brick
looked
phone.
like a brick.
Yeah, about the size of a brick. Took almost 2 hands, hold it up the side of your face. Big buttons like senior style.
Doubles as a bludgeoning weapon. Yeah.
But a modernish flip phone is not a brick phone.
No.
Like it's just a feature phone.
Well, and so I don't know who wrote this. It's from the BBC, so
British
we don't know.
Twerp. Is that a British word?
But I'm old, and I'm sure this writer is not, and so something gets lost in the translation if you don't experience it, right? So
he's been called out then.
Totally.
I want to know what happened to the phone in the Matrix that like had that little like switchblade component where you like push the button and goes.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
What happened to those?
They were feature phones.
I mean, if you're gonna have,
that's a hell of a feature.
If you're gonna have a dumb phone, like that seems like the best one to have.
Yeah, there were all kinds of different sliders that get the top from the bottom, man.
603-283-6160. Why would dumb phones be making a comeback, do you imagine? We'll talk about that coming up. Plus, we'll talk about a whole bunch of other stuff, including a 71-year-old pickleball enthusiast who got arrested for a felony. We'll tell you more about that here on Free Talk Live. More is on the way.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
And we are back. Very good, Richie Rich. Well done. Woo! Glad you could notice. Peakless, how about you? Are we back?
I've been here the whole time.
Okay. Have you solved your technicalities?
My powers have increased.
You're rolling a +4 right now, hit points?
I just leveled up.
I was in a comic book store recently, and it looked super tiny on the outside, and I'm like, ugh, is this place just going to be like, it's going to have nothing, right? I walk in, and it is packed to the ceiling. It's got the super tall ceilings, and it's packed to the ceiling, and it's super long. Like, it's very, you don't kind of get the full idea of what the store is going to be like because it looks really small. So it's kind of TARDIS-like. It's
Enter the quantum realm.
Bigger on the inside.
Nice.
So, at any rate, this is Free Talk Live. The telephone number 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Beakless Mountaineer.
And Richie Rich.
We're talking about this article from the BBC about Dumbphones making a comeback. They're talking about this lady, Miss West, who has decided to forego her smartphone on a spur of the moment. Her current handset has no smartphone functionality at all. No apps, can't surf the web. And it doesn't have an expensive monthly data bill to worry about either. She says, I didn't notice until I bought a brick phone how much a smartphone actually was taking over my life. She says, I had a lot of social media apps on it, and I didn't get as much work done as I was always on my phone. The Londoner adds that she doesn't think she'll ever buy another smartphone. I'm happy with my brick. I don't think it limits me. I'm definitely more proactive.
So I bought my dumb phone last year, I think.
Oh, it's a recent purchase for you. Is it your primary?
It's not my primary.
Okay.
But I keep it as an emergency phone now, so it sits charged like in my room.
Okay.
But I bought it because last year I had to travel to Hawaii. And there were like rumors and reports and stories, and I didn't experience this when I got there, that because of the COVID restrictions, right? They're like, we're going to put this tracking app on your smartphone.
Oh, right, I remember that.
I was like, well, screw that. I'm showing up with a dumb phone and giving them the middle finger.
Nice.
Like, what are you going to do now? So I bought the dumb phone, set up a whole new number for it. I was like, this is what I got. This is my vacation phone.
Yep.
I'm not going to be needing the smartphone functionality. Thank you very much.
Well, and I think
take your app and swirl.
I think that's exactly what these people are thinking with this. Because, I mean, some of the show prep I was hoping to get to at some point is how the UK is rolling out this digital ID system. And Canada is calling for mixing up the digital ID system with the vaccine passport system.
Yeah, we've talked on previous episodes about different countries implementing these types of things. And, everybody's just like, but now it's progressing, right? So we're seeing marriage of multiple technologies government's trying to roll this into one thing now and make it a bundle. Right? This is what the old cell phones
it'll be your biometric ID, it'll be your vaccine passport, it'll be your bank account.
Yeah, no thanks.
And if you have to hand the phone to the cops to check your ID, and it's unlocked, they get access to everything.
Yeah. Yeah, not going to happen.
Well, I mean, if it keeps going in this direction, they won't have to have you hand them anything. It'll just be, according to the tracker in your phone, it's this particular person that's in the car ahead of me. Yeah. Let me just pull up all of their, medical history.
And I would guess amongst freedom-oriented people that, dumb phones, I suspect, have always sort of had a purpose, and that being the person. I suspect more and more people are realizing that, hey, if you want to get away from not only, the government tracking you and using your device as that sort of tracking, that the dumb phone is one of the ways that you can go to sort of limit that exposure.
Yeah.
So they are continuing continuing to enjoy a revival. Google searches for them have jumped 89% between 2018 and 2021. So people are actively seeking dumb phones online.
I think for the general public, it's less about those freedom and non-tracking issues. It's more about the time sink that goes into your phone.
Yeah.
Like people, they just sit there and they just zombie out on their phone.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you realize how much time you're wasting just doing that, they go like, I'm addicted and maybe I need to put this down.
Yep.
And, the old way, like who wants to sit there and type out all those messages on a, the T9 typing system?
Not me.
You cut back a lot.
There's some people listening, some youngsters, I'm sure, that are like, I don't know what they're talking about.
They don't know what tactile buttons are either.
Right.
So
yeah.
Well, and I'm sure that's a big part of it, but at the same time, I think this is a recrimination of big tech, because if your smartphone was still providing you enough information that like even the time sync was worth it, that was valuable or true information, then people would still have a desire for this smartphone. Whereas at this point, I mean, there is so much censorship, and so much of the information, like even when it is true, is like part of an echo chamber that's been designed by an algorithm that people just don't have the same level of value.
I went through this curve with the smartphone, the first one that I got that, had the browser and the apps and stuff, where I would do that. I would find myself zoning out and just like, oh my gosh, I've been on my phone for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, right? How did that happen? I was only supposed to look at one thing real quick, and like next thing you know, it's 2 hours have gone by. So I went through this curve where I would do that like kind of frequently. And then I realized what I was doing. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to make some changes in what I do and how I do it and my intent with my phone. I eliminated basically all of the apps off of my phone. I was like, okay, only what I quote need, unquote. And to me, that's subjective, obviously. So like, but it was my, I just narrowed it down to my like top 7 things that I had to
Encrypted
have.
messaging and crypto wallet.
Those were 2. But sales figures are hard to come by. But one report said that global purchases of Dumbphones were due to hit 1 billion units last year, up from 400 million in 2019. This compares to worldwide sales of 1.4 billion smartphones, following a 12.5% decline in 2020. So, folks, a certain segment of folks are going the way of the dumb phones.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons, I'm sure. Meanwhile,
especially if your boss expects you to like check your email when you wake up in the morning, like I've only got this phone, I got to wait till I get to my work computer.
Yeah,
and that's another benefit too.
And that's the thing. If you can change the culture by just participating differently, then they stop expecting you to have a smartphone.
Yep.
If there are more people that just don't have one, that can't check their email, that can't carry a vaccine passport or whatever it is,
or if you're getting a new job. A lot of folks are either changing jobs or returning to the workforce these days, or trying to. It's if you have a dumb phone when you get your job, some jobs will expect you to sort of be on all the time if it's a salary position.
That's what I'm saying.
And if you show up, maybe you have a smartphone, but if you just show up with the dumb phone, it might be a good way to get your employer to pay for you to have a company phone, so that you can ride the dual, right?
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I don't know if I'd even want the company phone, right? Because then that really is going to be expected. Like, we're paying for you to have this. Now you have. Well,
yeah, but then you can clock too, right? If you're hourly or whatever, right? If you track your
well,
hours
you said
like
salary.
That. Yeah,
salary,
I did say salary. Yeah. Some places are they require folks to be on call, that type of stuff. At least places I work for. So I've been in those situations as well. 603-283-6160. Did you choose a dumb phone over a smartphone? Give us a call. Let us know why you made that decision in your life. This is Free Talk Live. More coming up, including something about pickleball.
Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. There's been further international condemnation of Russia after Ukraine accused Russian forces of being responsible for a massacre in the city of Bucha, near Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Photographs and videos released by Ukrainian authorities and news agencies appear to show bodies scattered in the streets of Bucha, some with their hands tied behind their backs. In an interview with CBS's Face the Nation, Ukraine's president accused Russia of committing acts of genocide in his country. Here's Volodymyr Zelensky speaking through a government interpreter.
The elimination of the whole nation and the people, this is destruction and extermination of all these nationalities.
US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken told CNN the images from Bucha were a punch to the gut. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres also called for an independent investigation into the alleged atrocities in Bucha, but Russia has denied responsibility for the killing of civilians. Here's Ollie Barrett, our correspondent in Riga, Latvia.
Russia is denying the allegations with regards to Bucha. It says that this is fake, and it also says that the Ukrainians have published these images from Bucha as a provocation. So pretty strong pushback from Moscow, but very, very strong words coming from international leader after international leader, particularly here on the European continent.
Sri Lanka's cabinet has resigned following mounting pressure over the country's spiralling economic crisis. On Sunday, several peaceful demonstrations took place in the capital, Colombo, despite a 36-hour government curfew. In the city of Kandy, police used tear gas and water cannon against protesting students. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had declared a state of emergency and blocked access to social media following violent protests last week sparked by growing public anger against his administration. People have been facing lengthy power cuts, some lasting up to 13 hours, as well as skyrocketing food prices. A severe shortage of foreign currency, partly due to a pandemic-related drop in tourism, combined with the 2019 tax cut, has meant the government hasn't been able to pay for essential imports such as fuel and medicine. A shooting in the California capital has left at least 6 people dead and 10 people hospitalized. Sacramento police are asking the public for help in identifying any suspects. Rachel Silverman has more.
Sacramento's mayor has attributed the tragedy to the epic of gun violence in the United States. The shooting occurred at about 2 in the morning local time in an area lined with bars and restaurants just blocks from the state capitol building. Video posted on social media showed people running through the street with the sound of rapid gunfire in the background. Sacramento police say they have not yet determined if the victims were deliberately targeted or how many shooters were involved.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Thank you for tuning in. Welcome back, everybody. It is Free Talk Live, Sunday night edition. The telephone number here, if you'd like to join us, 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160.
I think you missed the start date at the beginning of the show again.
I think you're right.
Slacker.
Captain's log, start date 0403-2022. But
That's
we got
2 weeks in a row.
We got
Okay.
it in the
All
first, first hour.
If that's the bar that we're setting.
I won't say that I was at the bar, but
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if Picard suddenly came on and it's like stardate such and such in the middle of what?
In the middle of the episode?
No, you're not allowed.
Number one, go make me a Jack and Coke. Except I don't drink Jack or Coke. Number one, whiskey. Neat. That would be my, instead of Earl Grey hot. For me, this captain right here that you're listening to, be a Scotch. Neat.
But would you drink the synthahol?
I mean, sure.
Or would you be like Scotty and be like, nah.
I'd be more
it's gotta
curious
the real
to try
stuff.
the Klingon blood wine. Or Romulan ale. Yes.
Little dabble, do ya?
So, we're moving on from the phone thing.
Okay.
We're going with this article I think you brought in, Richie Rich?
Sure.
From Reason.com.
That might be the one.
71-year-old pickleball enthusiast armed with Sharpie arrested for felony criminal mischief. Now, we did this off the air, but can you, Richie Rich, just remind our listeners, what the heck is pickleball?
Okay, so pickleball is a game, and as I described it, Peakless came up with a good description of it, which is basically a cross between badminton and ping pong.
Ooh.
So it's like you play ping pong standing up over like a badminton net with the wooden paddle and a wiffle ball.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
I don't know that I've ever played pickleball.
It's kind of fun.
I've never even heard of it.
I haven't played it in years.
Did you play it in like grade school, high school, gym class, something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We only did like field hockey and floor hockey. Field hockey if it was nice out. Floor hockey if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Now, did you play this in a foreign country like Hawaii?
Yes.
It is far away.
An illegally occupied sovereign kingdom, if you will.
Where does the pickle part come in?
I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe the wood paddles are made from pickle boxes. I have no idea why it's called pickleball, but that's what it is. It's fun.
Arslan, is that how you say it? A-R-S-L-E? Arslan Cooney, or Gooney, G-U-N-E-Y, Gunny maybe? I don't know.
Gunny.
Arslan Gunny spent 10 years, or 10 hours, sorry, 10
10 years. That is a long game.
Wow. Mr. Gunny spent 10 hours in jail for making a few marks on a gym floor. He could still get 3 years in prison.
Wow.
Yes, Mr. Gunny, worked as an engineer for Vlasic Pickles. I guess that's where the pickle comes in?
I don't think so, but I don't think he invented the game.
Is it just odd that he worked for a pickle company and he was playing pickleball, or
irony of ironies?
Okay. Well, he worked as an engineer for Vlasic Pickles. In retirement, he became an avid pickleball enthusiast. Now, the 71-year-old Denver man finds himself in a legal pickle. Oh, God. The story's got puns.
So you're all about the portmanteaus, but no puns.
I'm beginning to become sour on the topic. I get it. That's right. On Thursday, Gunny was arrested for felony criminal mischief for allegedly defacing a gym floor at one of the city department's parks and recreation facilities. If convicted, he could face 3 years in prison. The Denver Parks Department has also banned Gunny from its facilities and is demanding that he pay close to $10,000 to cover the cost of his vandalism.
That's ridiculous. So,
I mean, like, I know Sharpie's permanent, so it's probably difficult to get out of the floor or whatever, but like,
as we get through this, I believe the article has a picture of the defacement, and it's a little mark on the ground.
Oh, like, yeah, there is. It's like, yeah, he drew like a square somehow on the floor, and yeah, it doesn't look like it's really even very big. Interesting. The vandalism in question, Gunny had used a permanent marker to draw small squares around pre-existing black X marks made by a Parks Department employee to mark out a pickleball course.
So he didn't even add anything like bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't vandalism. They already had marks on the ground,
right? And
he just made them more distinct.
Drew a border around the existing marks.
Right. Like, you don't even need to go clean that up. Right, pay the man for his service for making it better. He
literally improved the playing surface. It's a horrible misunderstanding. He immediately apologized. He immediately wanted to sit down and resolve the issue, says Holland Hoskins, the Denver attorney and former public defender representing Gunny. Why are you going to arrest this gentleman and put him in jail? She asks.
Vandal.
People have 71-year-old vandal. What a horrible
we caught him.
Yeah.
The pickleball Sharpie King.
The streets are safe. Finally.
Yeah.
The pickleball Sharpie King has been apprehended and faces 3 years.
There's going to be a social media post of all the police with the Sharpie on the table.
This is what will replace all of the chatter about what's his name and what's her name and the dude slapping the other dude at the thing.
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that. It's true.
Yeah.
We only insinuate.
Yeah.
People have long been playing pickleball, a kind of oversized table tennis game similar to tennis or badminton, at Denver Central Park Recreational Center. The center's multi-use gym floor had permanent lines for basketball and volleyball, but not pickleball. Instead, the center provided players with floppy, removable yellow markers that could be used to stake out temporary pickleball court markings. This was hardly ideal. Setting up the yellow markers was time-consuming, and they didn't do a great job of marking off a court. Some of the players also complained that the movable markers were a tripping hazard. Of course.
Of course.
You're on a slick-looking floor that's all nice and waxed and polished or whatever.
That's why they don't raise the three-point line on the basketball court.
Right.
Well, now maybe they should.
Would make for a more entertaining game, especially with the dribbling. Just
his toe was on the line. How do we know?
They'll start wearing like football pads, and now you've invented tackle basketball. At any rate, to make the setup easier, a Parks Department employee added black X marks on the floor of the gym in fall of 2021. But avid players were still eager for their own permanent markings. At the beginning of 2022, they recruited Gunny, affectionately known as the mayor of pickleball.
He was entrapped
because of his enthusiasm for the game, to negotiate with the Parks Department.
Here's what you got to do, Gunny. Just go in there with a Sharpie and make us our own court, okay?
Yeah, we'll even supply the Sharpie.
Here you go. This is all you need.
Conspiracy for defacement.
Earlier this month, Gunny and the Parks Department had a meeting where department staff said they'd work on expanding the number of hours that the Central Parks gym could be used for pickleball and consider making permanent markings. They also told Gunny to come up with a diagram for precisely where temporary markings should go so that gym staff could more quickly get the court set up. Gunny agreed. After regularly scheduled pickleball the following Monday, he surveyed the court in preparation for making his diagram, noticing that some of the pre-existing X marks on the gym floor were in the wrong spot. Gunny borrowed a marker from Recreation Center staff and drew black squares around the correctly positioned X's. He doesn't think anything of it. He thinks he's doing the right thing, says Hoskins. That's not how the Parks Department saw it. Of course, when the man gets involved.
Yeah, reminds me of getting in trouble for filling in potholes.
Yep.
Right.
Or building stairs for elderly people.
Stairs, yeah,
Right.
in a park that are well built, by the way.
Yeah. Yep. Building effective bridges without a permit.
When people showed up to play the next day, they were greeted with a sign that says, "Pickleball has been canceled."
You vandals! Stay out of our gym.
We'll find out more about what happened to pickleball after it was canceled because of this vandals Sharpie markings. Coming up here on Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
When commercials come on, don't push the button. Instead, listen. Even if you don't sell things for a living, you're still selling in the various conversations and transactions that make up your busy day. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important, especially if you're a job seeker. So take a lesson from Madison Avenue. Often the fewer words, the more effective the message. Like Jiffy Lube, where you never need an appointment, or the Office Max ad that says, you supply the ambition, we supply everything else. How about online ticket broker StubHub.com, the way in when it's sold out, or CyberCupidMatch.com's seductive, go ahead, it's okay to look. How cleverly and succinctly can you distill your message? For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Listening to the show is what you're doing. Talking into a microphone is what I'm doing.
It's sitting here bobbing my head to music is what I'm doing.
Pigless, what are you doing?
None of your business.
Just don't be breaking the studio anymore. Enough of that already for one night.
I made it better.
All right. Oh, did you improve it now?
I did.
Hopefully you didn't use a Sharpie and draw on anything like this guy did.
I helped put out the fires. You made them worse. Worse or better?
Before we continue talking about this pickleball vandal who faces 3 years in prison for marking on a gymnasium floor.
Public gymnasium floor.
With a Sharpie he borrowed from a staff member of the Parks Department. Before we continue telling you about that, Free Talk Live's video archives have been on Library for years. Library is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of that here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, Library launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it is really taking off now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. Wow.
Imagine that.
During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line about COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, and now we're streaming every night live and posting our video archives to Odyssey permanently. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, you can download the Library desktop app over at lbry.com. And then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. Visit video.freetalklive.com to follow us on Odyssey today. That's video.freetalklive.com. All right, so this guy, what was his name? I don't remember.
Gunny,
thank you. Sounds like, what was the movie? Like, was it, it's a military movie. Like Gunny Sergeant, or Gunnery Sergeant, right? And they called him Gunny or whatever. That's what it sounds like. Sounds like
Full Metal Jacket.
That's the one, thank you. Or was it Apocalypse Now? I don't remember.
One of the two.
Anyway, this gentleman named Gunny, pickleball enthusiast,
Worked at a pickle company.
Worked at a pickle company. The quote-unquote mayor of pickleball, according to his friends and all the other players who played pickleball, they all voted him like the leader, basically. They're like, hey, man, you're the mayor of pickleball, and, you know, this court is substandard to our play. Can you petition, you know, or go talk to the people and, you know, make it right? And so he did. And so in doing so, he borrowed a Sharpie to make some markings a little more legible on the floor.
Well, and to correct the markings, apparently, where they were incorrect.
And the next day, they canceled pickleball.
Boo!
The Parks Department, that is. So later that night, Gunny received an email from the Parks Department saying that because of markings he made on the gym floor, which they said couldn't be removed without damaging the floor's finish, he was no longer allowed to use department-run recreation facilities or participate in recreation programs.
Does this sound like a miscommunication? Like he was talking with someone from the Parks Department, and then we're like, yeah, we're going to help you out.
Yeah.
And then someone else from the Parks Department, like some higher up who didn't know what was going on, like, no, this is intolerable.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, they had asked him to put together a diagram of what it would look like.
Misunderstanding maybe, but when I hear someone say diagram, I don't mean on the physical thing. I mean like draw me something.
Sure.
Okay.
But I'm saying that
he did actually draw them something, and then later on it's like, wait, these are all wrong.
But he drew it on the actual surface
with their marking. Yeah. Wait, so if he's not allowed to go back there, does that make him the mayor of pickleball in exile?
Ooh.
I believe it does.
It's his new title.
Things only got worse from there. On Wednesday, he received a call from a detective with the Denver Police Department, who obviously have nothing better to do with their time, because Denver is perfect when it comes to crime.
No violence whatsoever.
There's no rape kits that need testing in Denver. They've all been tested, and everybody's been, justice has been dispensed.
We've matched the fingerprints on the Sharpie.
There's no murders to solve.
From that Sharpie to the ink on the ground. We've got you, Gunny. We've got you.
So Detective so-and-so gives this guy a call and says that the Parks Department has filed a criminal complaint.
Why would you need a detective for this? We know who did it. He's right there. He says he did it. He's the mayor of pickleball.
Well, better than sending out a beat cop.
He's well known in the community.
Yeah.
He works at a pickle factory.
What detecting do you need to do here?
You're a detective. Detect! They filed a criminal complaint for felony criminal mischief and that they were going to issue an arrest warrant.
Unnecessary.
This is so dumb.
Completely unnecessary. We all know he did it, right? It's not like he's denying it, right?
But if we don't put him behind bars, he might go to other gyms, and right on their floors, it will be chaos.
Like, file if you have to, file the criminal complaint, right? See if the district attorney's office even wants to do anything with this, right? And if not, just let him go. Or, whatever, but why would they even want to prosecute this at all?
I don't usually
Pure evil.
I don't usually look over at the chat, but I like to once a show or something. Somebody, I don't know if it's true or not. He says the creator of the game named it after his dog Pickle.
Okay.
I have no
as
idea
believable
if that's
as any other story about it. I've only played it. I don't know the historical lore of pickleball.
So anyway, Detective Richard Cranium from the Denver Police Department. I don't know if I'm just making up a name for this detective because they haven't said what it is yet. Gunny, shocked and horrified, tried to contact the Parks Department to sort things out. He was met with silence. At this point, people started contacting Hoskins, an avid pickleball player herself, to see if she could help Gunny. This is the attorney now. Hoskins says she visited the Central Park Rec Center to examine the markings for herself, didn't even notice them at first.
You have to get on the floor to look at them. It's a tiny little square over an X.
People were using the court for basketball at the time and told her that they weren't bothered by the markings at all. Assuming there had been some big misunderstanding, Hoskins agreed to represent Gunny pro bono. Immediately, she set about trying to get a meeting with the Parks Department and sort everything out, but the department didn't budge. They said that they wanted Gunny arrested and were set on pursuing felony criminal charges.
If you wear the wrong shoes to the gym, you're going to leave a scuff mark bigger than what he did with the Sharpie.
So let's just pause here for a little anti-statist public service announcement.
Okay.
This is what is wrong with the organization known as the state, or commonly referred to as government. It doesn't even matter if you intend to be a good person, an honest person, an ethical person, a moral person. If you work for the organization known as the state, you are going to do horrible things to other people. It's just the nature of the game. The state government, it is an antique, horrific, and barbaric method of managing what? I don't know. Society? Does it even do that? No, it doesn't. But it's a horrific way to organize people, and it has been, and it needs to go away, because this is the kind of useless crap that permeates the entire country, if not the entire world, because the entire world now is claimed by some government. There's no place on planet Earth, unless you're, you got some gills that you can, live underwater or whatever. There's no place, no land on planet Earth that isn't claimed by a government. There's nowhere to go for people who want to just be voluntary and peaceful and let people live and live themselves, as long as they're not hurting anybody else.
And the seasteading project is taking way too long.
Yeah, I mean, there's several good ideas that are
I like the
floating.
idea. I like the idea. It's just like every update is like, we've got this new prototype that we've been working on for how this is going to work. Like, dude, build something already. It's time to go.
I mean, worst case scenario here, let's just say the facts they're reporting here in this article are true. The guy marked up the floor. Okay, what's it going to cost to undo that? Right? You got to buff the floor out and restain it, or whatever you got to do to the floor.
That was going to be my other point. This seems less like a criminal problem and more like a civil problem, where it's just how much is it going to cost? And I'm sure someone as well established in the community as him is going to get some financial support to remedy this misunderstanding.
All the pickleballers and the pickle factory workers could throw the plate around. And
it's an example of what they call anarcho-tyranny, where you get all of the worst things that people are afraid of with anarchy, and you get complete tyranny at the same time. So if you're stealing $1 billion from the people at large, oh no, you get away with that scot-free. If you're actually a dangerous criminal, well, it would be dangerous to pursue you, so you get away free too. But if you used a Sharpie on the floor, oh, we got to put you away for years.
603-283-6160. Would you take your pickleball and go home? More coming up. This is Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. There's been further international condemnation of Russia after Ukraine accused Russian forces of being responsible for a massacre in the city of Bucha, near Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Photographs and videos released by Ukrainian authorities and news agencies appear to show bodies scattered in the streets of Bucha, some with their hands tied behind their backs. In an interview with CBS's Face the Nation, Ukraine's president accused Russia of committing acts of genocide in his country. Here's Volodymyr Zelensky speaking through a government interpreter.
The elimination of the whole nation and the people, this is destruction and extermination of all these nationalities.
US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken told CNN the images from Bucha were a punch to the gut. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres also called for an independent investigation into the alleged atrocities in Bucha, but Russia has denied responsibility for the killing of civilians. Here's Ollie Barrett, our correspondent in Riga, Latvia.
Russia is denying the allegations with regards to Bucha. It says that this is fake, and it also says that the Ukrainians have published these images from Bucha as a provocation. So pretty strong pushback from Moscow, but very, very strong words coming from international leader after international leader, particularly here on the European continent.
Sri Lanka's cabinet has resigned following mounting pressure over the country's spiralling economic crisis. On Sunday, several peaceful demonstrations took place in the capital, Colombo, despite a 36-hour government curfew. In the city of Kandy, police used tear gas and water cannon against protesting students. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had declared a state of emergency and blocked access to social media following violent protests last week sparked by growing public anger against his administration. People have been facing lengthy power cuts, some lasting up to 13 hours, as well as skyrocketing food prices. A severe shortage of foreign currency, partly due to a pandemic-related drop in tourism, combined with the 2019 tax cut, has meant the government hasn't been able to pay for essential imports such as fuel and medicine. A shooting in the California capital has left at least 6 people dead and 10 people hospitalized. Sacramento police are asking the public for help in identifying any suspects. Rachel Silverman has more.
Sacramento's mayor has attributed the tragedy to the epic of gun violence in the United States. The shooting occurred at about 2 in the morning local time in an area lined with bars and restaurants just blocks from the state capitol building. Video posted on social media showed people running through the street with the sound of rapid gunfire in the background. Sacramento police say they have not yet determined if the victims were deliberately targeted or how many shooters were involved.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the complexities of holding Vladimir Putin, his top advisors and individual Russian commanders to account for the war crimes that appear to have been committed in Bucha, just outside Kyiv. Our guide to the thicket in which the international community will soon find itself is Sir Mark Lyle-Grant, the British government's former national security advisor.
The key first step is to gather the evidence, and that should be relatively easy, given that there are a lot of journalists present on the ground and the Russians are now withdrawing. The International Criminal Court prosecutor has started an investigation, but Russia itself, as a country, is not a member of the ICC. It pulled out in 2016, so very difficult to hold Russia directly to account. The best avenue, therefore, is that the ICC can issue individual arrest warrants when they identify those responsible for individual war crimes. But of course, those individuals, being Russian, would have to be extradited from Russia or to travel abroad and then be arrested when they were abroad. So it's going to be extremely difficult in practice to hold either President Putin or indeed any of his soldiers to account for individual crimes they've committed.
And the US government, already accusing Russia of war crimes, also does not recognise the International Criminal Court. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main headlines again. Ukraine accuses Russian forces of committing a massacre in the city of Bucha. Moscow denies the allegations, but it faces overwhelming international condemnation. Sri Lanka's cabinet has resigned following mounting pressure over the country's spiralling economic crisis. And a shooting in Sacramento has left at least 6 people dead and 10 people hospitalized. And that is the latest from Feature Story News. I'm Jagruti Dave in Washington.
Jode Kress-Beckler. From claim jumpers to politicians to coyotes, the straight shooter that shook up the presidential race is taking them all on and licking them good.
Hello, Jode.
Who and what's behind these potato monkey shines?
Well, these scientists are trying to mass-produce potatoes that are more resistant to disease, but they're doing so in potentially dangerous ways that alter their DNA.
Tater disease, what brung us Irish.
Right.
You give a tater man's constitution, you can bet he's coming to play old Joe to call.
Yes, well, nature's revenge could come in the form of disease
now you listen
or
to
allergens.
me, taters. You gave a mind of a tater.
Jode, please, let me make my point.
You're tater-minded and you're looking to infiltrate old Joe's cabin, but you're too late.
No.
Now you get out
All
or
right,
I
Jode.
slice your tater heart out and fry it up on my grill.
Okay, Jode.
Now y'all stay close. You're gonna have my jug band back here, and if Jasper don't let me strum the washboard, we're gonna resort to cutting.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Kicking off hour number 2 of Free Talk Live. The telephone number here is 603-283-6160 if you would like to call in and talk about whatever is on your mind. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass. Joining me,
Peakless Mountaineer.
And Rich.
We've been talking about this article from Reason.com where a Mr. Gunny is facing apparently felony charges up to 3 years in prison for using a Sharpie that he borrowed from a Parks and Recs Department employee to make pickleball markings so they could play pickleball more effectively on the gymnasium floor at the Park and Rec Center. Which is just the reason that this has happened is because somebody with a state job, right, in Colorado, was like, well, that's not going to happen on my watch. He'll feel the wrath of me and the bureaucracy. Ha, 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 ha. Right.
So glad I left. And
I
this
hope
is
they
what
figure
happens
this
when
out.
you get Californians.
I hope they figure this out and it goes nowhere. Like they resolve it. DEA decides not to prosecute.
I hope so, but I doubt it.
So,
okay.
I mean, there's too much to gain.
What is there to gain?
Oppression, money, another tick mark, a little I got this one, I got it's like quotas with tickets.
Okay. I hope this goes viral enough where the outpour of support in favor of Gunny is enough to overwhelm that DA where they're like, this is too much bad press for us.
Yeah, so Gunny, of course, goes to the Park and Recs folks and is like, hey, there must be some kind of misunderstanding,
Clearly.
Like, how can I set this right? And they're like, no, be gone. You are exiled, Mr. Mayor of Pickletown, Pickleball, whatever they call him. The Parks Department proving implacable, Gunny handed himself over to police on Thursday. He had to turn himself in, be booked, arrested with a mugshot and fingerprints, says Hoskins, his attorney. Hoskins worked overtime to get her client a hearing where he was finally given a $5,000 personal recognizance bond that allowed him to go home. He ended up spending 10 hours in jail.
So a $5,000 bond.
And 10 hours of his time.
10 hours of his time.
Well, more than 10 hours, right?
Okay.
He turned himself into the drive time and then, drive
like,
back.
Why the 5,000? He's cooperated every step of the way. Just give him a court date.
Yeah.
Let him go.
Yeah. Hoskins argues that the charges brought against Gunny are totally inappropriate. Criminal mischief requires criminal intent. You have to knowingly damage property, she says. Hoskins also says that Gunny is willing to cover the costs of removing the markings he made, but that the $10,000 in damages is a wild overestimate. And it's already cost the guy $5,000, at least temporarily. Possibly permanent if he gets convicted, right?
I don't think so.
They give you that back?
No, they give you the bond back because the bond is just to make sure you show up.
Okay. All right.
A lot of times they will allow you to put the bond towards whatever fine.
Right.
But you don't have to post your own bond. So the bond, whoever holds the bond gets the money back.
Okay.
Either way.
The Parks Department did not return Reason's request for comment. In a statement to the Washington Post, a department spokesperson said, "Defacing and damaging public property is unacceptable, a criminal offense. It will not be tolerated in any of our public buildings or spaces."
How did they even find the markings?
Yeah.
Right. Like, who's looking that close? Like, the basketball players. Okay. The basketball players didn't even notice. Like, oh, we don't care. It's a little square on the ground. Like, who cares?
So Hoskins says the Denver District Attorney's Office should make a decision on whether to pursue charges against Gunny either today or tomorrow.
That's what I hope they don't. I mean,
it's just the most ridiculous thing, but this is what people do with the state. The state is a gun hiding behind, paper, bureaucracy. And so people do something somebody else doesn't like. They go, "I'm going to sick the largest organization of violence known to mankind on that particular individual."
Well, this'll teach these people to leave their houses in the first place. Don't they know there's a pandemic on?
It's not like the Parks and Rec Department is made for people to go and do recreational things in and at and on.
I mean, I get it. You don't have to explain the badness of the state to me, but at the same time, like, a little someone there has to have a little bit of common sense. If not be persuaded by the attorney, going like, maybe not at the Parks and Recreations Department, but at the DA's office. Like, do you want to be the DA that pursues this? Is that your assignment?
Another notch in your belt.
Yeah, some up-and-comer who's
Yes, like when you're trying to be a DA and continue to be one, it's like, okay, here's how many I successfully prosecute.
Yeah. And that could be a bragging point for them, too. Yeah, I even got the pickleball guy convicted.
I got the mayor. I convicted the mayor of pickleball.
Yeah.
All right.
Could be
teach you to deface public property.
Let's go
and it will serve as a warning for people who want to deface other public property.
Let's go to your calls and thoughts and see what's going on in listener land. We have Sarah in New Mexico calling. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yes. I just want to bring up the point that, the cars are manufactured to go up to 160 miles per hour, or it used to be 120 miles per hour.
Some even faster.
Yeah, some speedometers used to go up to 210.
Well,
right?
she's talking about the speed that the cars are manufactured for.
Oh, I see.
And I'm pretty sure the high end for the stock vehicles is over 200 for those luxury racers.
So, assuming that's all true, what is your issue with them being manufactured to that standard, Sarah?
Yeah, but it's kind of ironic. So why are they wanting to give out so many speeding tickets, and they complain about speeders here in Albuquerque and New Mexico and all over? And the highest speed limit is 85 miles per hour in some freeways in some state, but I don't see 112.
There's actually a state that has no speed limit whatsoever during the day for non-trucks.
It's Montana, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Montana during the day, at least the last time I drove through it, had no speed limit during the day.
So just for that state, we have to manufacture cars that go up to 160 miles per hour.
Well,
you manufacture them because that's what people want.
Yeah, I suspect that nobody has really thought about manufacturing a car. There are things called governors that if you drive like a fleet truck for a company or a company vehicle and they don't want you speeding, they can put a governor on your vehicle and that will limit how fast you can go. So there's, third party, the market has sort of provided for that if folks want that on their vehicles. Or if you're just like a parent and you're like, my kid will never speed, and you put a governor on the car that doesn't let them go over 55.
Which is dumb because sometimes evasive maneuvers requires you to speed up.
Yeah.
Well, like passing somebody or speeding up into getting into a freeway, it does. But I mean, speeding more than 15, 20 miles. I'm just pushing to get our speed limit up to maybe 110 at the most, or 90.
I would love
just to eliminate it. Miles per hour.
I think speed limits should be eliminated. I mean, in fact, speed limits are kind of
they were supposed to be. I mean, this was put in as a temporary program because we had a gas shortage at the time, and they found out that, somewhere around 45 miles an hour is really the sweet spot for fuel efficiency, so they put in all of these speed limits to keep people as close to that speed as they thought was reasonable at the time. And when they did it, they said this is a temporary measure. It will only exist for as long as this gas crunch is on. But, of course, as soon as they did that, the money was rolling in. So they just held on to them.
You mean a government program that was supposed to be temporary became permanent?
You don't say.
It's like that never happens, ever. I'm kidding, of course, because that happens with almost every government program that ever claims to be temporary. Income tax, all the TSA crap.
The thing is that we got to do that. We have a really high gas price right now, so that is a good policy to.
I say let people do what they want to with their own gas.
I have an idea, though, that a reason that perhaps may answer your question, Sarah, because somebody needs to be able to make high-speed car chases for Hollywood films and television. And if cars didn't go that fast, they wouldn't be able to make these scenes. And thanks for the call tonight, Sarah. 603-283-6160. Have you owned a car that goes up to 210? Have you ever buried the needle? Give us a call. This is Free Talk Live. More coming up.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live, the show where anyone can call about whatever they want. And we do mean anyone.
The first point is it's legal, and that's important. Now, my question to you would be, they gassed Jews legally in Germany. Was that a good law?
Well, I don't know. I don't live in Germany.
Come on.
You don't know?
You don't know whether it was a good idea to gas Jews? You don't know whether it was a good idea to incarcerate Japanese Americans during World War II?
What does that have to do with them crossing the borders of the United States
I'm making a point, and I'm drawing a parallel, and it's a clear parallel, and you're dodging it. Do good people disobey bad laws, Buck?
No.
Good people do not disobey bad laws?
Criminals dodge the law.
Buck, wait a second. What if they outlawed guns in your state? Would you turn yours in, Buck?
Oh, absolutely, in a minute.
You would? Well, I'm sorry. You're a fascist. Bye.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. If you'd like to join us, we'll get to your calls in just a moment. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Beakless Mountaineer.
And Richie Rich.
It occurs to me that I'm old, and there might be some listeners who are young who have never experienced an analog speedometer in a car.
Okay.
Because there's digital speedometers in a lot of the cars these days. So
I like the digital ones.
So the term burying the needle might not be clear as what I'm talking about. When we before we went to break, I was like, "Have you ever buried the needle?"
Maybe
like
not
people
in
are
that
like,
context.
people are like, "Oh, I shoot up in my car all the time." Like I don't know what possible things they could be imagining bury the needle means, but the analog speedometer, of course, is just a needle that appears on the dashboard, goes from left to right as you increase your speed, and when it goes all the way to the right, sometimes it'll go so far that it disappears from view. At least in the old cars, I'm going to say pre-1980. I think almost every car had an analog speedometer, and if you did that, the needle itself would just disappear from view, and that's known as burying the needle, or going faster than what the car can register.
Yep. That's happened on a couple cars. My moped. Bury the needle on that thing.
Yep. So that's our little factoid for this edition of Free Talk Live.
You're welcome.
Let's go to the phones. Let's check in with Stephen in Northwest Georgia. Stephen, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, so first of all, I have buried the needle. You're welcome. I'm a cool guy.
Hey, thanks.
I'm important. Yeah. Second of all, I have figured out everything except for one aspect of this whole pickleball conundrum.
Oh, okay. All right, lay it on us, man.
So here's why this is happening. It's happening because they legalized marijuana. If they didn't legalize marijuana, then they would still be pulling over people for selling flowers and selling plants to each other, and they'd have they would have any time to do anything else because
they can still arrest you for that.
So the pot dealers were running cover for the pickleball vandals.
Oh yeah, I mean it's legalized, but only if you have a permit for selling it.
You just
well. The other thing,
my argument.
Well, the other thing I want to say is that a bunch of states have done what they call decriminalization. And that doesn't mean what it sounds like at all. Decriminalization sounds like they said, hey, marijuana is no longer a criminal offense. That's what it sounds like, but that is indeed not the case in any way, shape, or form. What decriminalization means in the states that have done so with marijuana means that it's still illegal, it's still a law on the books, but they are going to make it the lowest priority to prosecute.
It's a citation instead of a misdemeanor.
Right. And so it's this horrific bastardization of words that I really hate. The government does it all the time, of course. They use words that don't mean what you think it means, and they use them in the wrong way, or they invent new words to describe something horrific like war, right? Murdering people with bombs, and they call it kinetic military action.
Or the Department of Defense.
Right. Because that doesn't sound as bad as murdering people with heavy explosives.
Or the Department of War, as it used to be called.
Right. So, Stephen, have we blown your theory to smithereens?
You have. And
well, maybe not, because what he's saying is they used to go after pot people, and even if it's a low offense, they're still not, and that gives them more time to go after people like the pickleball vandal.
Is that the extent of your theory?
that's the extent of my theory. But here's the question that all this revolves around. When they legalized marijuana, when they decriminalized it, whatever it is, when they did that, did they fire a bunch of drug cops, or did they say, hey, let's rebrand you to be the Parks and Rec police? Because believe it or not, a bunch of school systems, like, hey, we're here to educate your kids, also have SWAT teams. And they're not there to do, like, school shootings or anything, because that's to just flood the situation.
Well, the students are there for that.
As many units on. The what?
I don't think that's what he meant.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he meant perform.
You're just like real dark.
Continue.
Richie Rich kind of dark guy.
But no, like, I just wonder, hey, when they got rid of these laws or they changed the laws up a little bit, what did they do with all of these specialized units? And once again, no one wants their boss to come over and they're sitting on their butt. So do you just, like, look for things? And do you just go and, hey, that guy, he's an easy target because he plays pickleball. Let me go mess with the pickleball guy. My other question is the detective and the people at the Parks and Rec, are they having themselves a happy relationship? Are they doing each other favors here? Because I really feel like if I was a detective and you called me about this, I'd just scream at you and hang up. But
yeah,
but no, they're pursuing it.
No,
DA is pursuing it.
Yeah, it sounds like somebody's doing something. Anyway, hey, thanks for the call tonight, Stephen. We appreciate it.
I figure what's happening with this is just, I mean, it's strange. It's the same reason I want to get rid of the government, and the same reason that most people don't care to get rid of the government is that just a few people at random will be targeted. And a few people just at random will, experience this terrible thing where they can, face fines and imprisonment for no good reason.
Yeah. And, like, what's happening here is he's not being given the opportunity to make it right. He wants to make it right.
He's offered to make it right.
He's offered to make it right. He's said, on paper, allegedly, that he will, whatever the cost is to, make it right, he'll pay
not whatever the cost is, though, because he said 10,000 is a little much. Let's negotiate down to what the actual cost is.
Right. But still, he has said that, if it costs some money to make it right, I have some money.
Right.
I'll throw some money at it to, make it right with you. I'm sorry. Right. So he's apologetic. Right. And, like, this type of a thing, I mean, not that the state is ever required to settle a dispute like this, but this type of a thing should never, ever, ever have men with guns involved in it.
Yeah.
This is a civil dispute between people. The only reason men with guns are involved is because, well, it is a government facility. The Parks and Recs Department is paid for by your tax dollars.
It still seems more of a civil matter than a criminal matter.
Yeah. If this were private parties, how would this play out?
They would likely say, hey, we wanted you to do a diagram, not mark up the court. We had to clean the court. Here's the cleaning bill. You got to cover it. And if he's true to his word, he would cover the cleaning bill or get cleaners of his own, because he seemed apologetic, right? It's clearly a misunderstanding. I don't see any private party taking it to that extent when the make good is clean the marking off the floor.
Right.
That's it. That's all you have to do. That brings you whole again.
I'm trying to think of it.
And if anyone didn't want to make good on it, then no one would want to do business with them.
Yeah.
Right. I'm trying to think of another, like, who has a facility like this that's not the state or the county or the
any private high school,
like, or a church, for example. Sometimes churches will have like a gymnasium type thing in it, right? So if it was a church and this happened at a church, all the church would want is for the markings to be gone.
Maybe
made
because
right.
It was there to, like, mark out where the permanent markings were going to be that they were considering anyway.
In any other situation, this would be easy to resolve and would probably not even make the news. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. There's been further international condemnation of Russia after Ukraine accused Russian forces of being responsible for a massacre in the city of Bucha, near Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Photographs and videos released by Ukrainian authorities and news agencies appear to show bodies scattered in the streets of Bucha, some with their hands tied behind their backs. In an interview with CBS's Face the Nation, Ukraine's president accused Russia of committing acts of genocide in his country. Here's Volodymyr Zelensky speaking through a government interpreter.
The elimination of the whole nation and the people, this is destruction and extermination of all these nationalities.
US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken told CNN the images from Bucha were a punch to the gut. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres also called for an independent investigation into the alleged atrocities in Bucha, but Russia has denied responsibility for the killing of civilians. Here's Ollie Barrett, our correspondent in Riga, Latvia.
Russia is denying the allegations with regards to Bucha. It says that this is fake, and it also says that the Ukrainians have published these images from Bucha as a provocation. So pretty strong pushback from Moscow, but very, very strong words coming from international leader after international leader, particularly here on the European continent.
Sri Lanka's cabinet has resigned following mounting pressure over the country's spiralling economic crisis. On Sunday, several peaceful demonstrations took place in the capital, Colombo, despite a 36-hour government curfew. In the city of Kandy, police used tear gas and water cannon against protesting students. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had declared a state of emergency and blocked access to social media following violent protests last week sparked by growing public anger against his administration. People have been facing lengthy power cuts, some lasting up to 13 hours, as well as skyrocketing food prices. A severe shortage of foreign currency, partly due to a pandemic-related drop in tourism, combined with the 2019 tax cut, has meant the government hasn't been able to pay for essential imports such as fuel and medicine. A shooting in the California capital has left at least 6 people dead and 10 people hospitalized. Sacramento police are asking the public for help in identifying any suspects. Rachel Silverman has more.
Sacramento's mayor has attributed the tragedy to the epic of gun violence in the United States. The shooting occurred at about 2 in the morning local time in an area lined with bars and restaurants just blocks from the state capitol building. Video posted on social media showed people running through the street with the sound of rapid gunfire in the background. Sacramento police say they have not yet determined if the victims were deliberately targeted or how many shooters were involved.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSM.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Yes, come on and listen to Free Talk Live 7 nights a week from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, it's a really awesome show.
If you like frat boys trying to make each other laugh.
I've never been part of a fraternity.
Me neither.
Officially.
My college didn't even have them.
You went to college?
I did.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't go to a college. I went to one of these, it was basically a trade school. I went for audio engineering, so art school. They have that, those courses.
It's technically university, but whatever.
Oh, fancy schmancy. Oh. Did you have to take SATs?
I did.
Yeah?
Yeah, high school to get into college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
College, Peakless?
Mm-hmm. I tried college a couple of times.
I mean, I went to a bunch of college parties.
Eventually got in trouble in philosophy class for having too many of my own thoughts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That was my straw that broke the camel's back. Okay, I'm done.
I lived in we'll call it the university area, of Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
And I was in my early 20s. And I would just go to like the local bars and just sort of hang out and meet people. And frequently, college kids, who were of age, 21 or whatever, would be at the bars and like, yeah, we're going to this party. And I'm like, can I come? Yeah, sure. Nice. And so I got all the cool benefits of going to college without actually going to college or having to pay, the money. Like for a real university, I was at like, they call it College Row with all the fraternities and the, whatever the Latin, things are above.
Didn't have to take an 8 a.m. exam hungover.
That would be Greek.
Greek, thank you, yes. Greek Row is what they call the thing. And so, like, I would just sort of happen my way into these college parties and drink and party with college-age kids and have a great time, but at no expense to me.
Nice.
It was pretty great. Anyway, 603-283-6160 if you would like to call in, talk about whatever's on your mind.
Captain's pro tip on getting free booze in a college town.
I'm a man of many experiences, and that was one of them. It worked repeatedly too. Like I did it the once, and like for like the next 2-3 days or something, I'm like, that was so cool. I just was at the bar having a beer, and like this group of 8 or 10 people, dudes and chicks, and we were like playing pool or something. Sure. I don't know, and we started hanging out and drinking and having a good time and laughing and carousing, and next thing I know, I'm following these guys to a party, and I'm like, I wonder if I can do that again. And so I went out to a different bar this time, and kind of the same thing occurred, and I'm like, this is awesome. So anyway, we're going to switch gears here. We're going to talk about this bit from, what's this from? I don't even know how to say that. It looks like it's from Futurism. It's called A Future Without Work.
Ooh.
The subtext headline is, fully automated luxury communism could give us our lives back. Oh, my God. First of all, that's a horrible acronym. FALC, fully automated luxury First
terrible
of all,
falcing acronym there.
First of all, yeah, what the FALC is going on here?
I know.
First of all, I'm pretty sure luxury communism is an oxymoron. Like military intelligence is an oxymoron. Jumbo shrimp is an oxymoron, right? I don't think...
Is luxury communism. We only starve you halfway.
I
can't remember the documentary from a few years ago. There was like part 1, part 2, part 3. And this is part 1 was like this. And some French dude named Jacques and his future world. And so this idea of fully automated luxury communism is not all that new. And I think what the article is picking up on is trying to wedge that into the current anti-work movement as well.
The article begins, can you imagine a world where nobody has to work?
No.
I'm pretty sure nobody already has a job. Oh, sorry, I'm talking about our co-host. Nobody who's on other days of the week than I am currently. A world in which people are free, really free, to pursue their hobbies and interests. A world in which people don't have to decide between watching their children grow up and working to provide for them.
A world with rainbows and gumdrops where it rains donuts for no reason.
So, again, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit here because automation moves forward, right? And technology moves forward.
Sure.
Jobs, people in jobs that your job is just to push the button, they get displaced, right? Fast food workers, factory workers, boom, you're out.
This has always been the case.
Well,
has always been the case.
And in order for that to happen, you have to have someone who programs the robots, and you have to have someone who fixes them when they break down.
Right. The job market just shifts.
Somebody's going to work.
Right.
Somebody's going to work.
A world, imagine a world without poverty and the pressure to earn money. A world without, I can't say that word.
I can imagine that, yeah.
There's a bad word written here in the article. Okay. A world without BS jobs that have no use and purpose whatsoever. Like, what are they trying to get at? They're telling me this job has no use or purpose? I think it does. This vision, this utopia called fully automated luxury communism, what is it? Well, let's find out. When living to work doesn't work anymore. In recent years, the discussion of the effects of automation of the world of work has been dominated by fear. There have been numerous studies published on the subject. Sometimes it's as many as 20% of the jobs that are threatened by automation, and other times it's more than 50%. In any case, the general tone is, be afraid. Mass unemployment and poverty are on the way. The future will be dystopic. Dystopic. Is that true? And just as a side note, recently we covered a topic of something like as close to 90% of truck drivers could be displaced due to automated semi-trucks hitting the market.
So when all of the normal jobs, right, get displaced, what the average human being is capable of, and you have these highly specialized jobs to just keep the machines going, what do all those displaced people do? Like new industries get created,
well,
sure.
You're talking about a hypothetical situation that I don't think will ever exist.
Okay.
Now, that's my opinion. I can sort of play along the what if game.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there is going to come a time when the marketplace doesn't just shift, right? There may be, more things like cashiers or personal assistants or, I don't know, housekeepers, right? Stuff that, if automation progresses in such a way in whatever industry or industries to displace that many people at the same time, then, there could be trouble. But I don't think it's going to happen at the same time. It's going to happen to an industry at a time, and the market will shift. The workers will be displaced in their current jobs, but they'll be able to find other jobs or be retrained and go and be productive somewhere else.
Sure.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be work. It's just the work itself changes. I mean, there are certain things that machines are bad at. And even people who are not, especially high functioning are way better than a machine at those things.
But can there be an end game to that? Right? Like all the work that needs to be done, right, is done by the machines, and all that's left is the work that you want to do because it gives you value and pride and some sort of feel good feeling that you've accomplished something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm still waiting for like cleaning the bathroom to be automated.
Okay.
Wait for that.
Well, and I mean, if you get rid of the regulations that are keeping us from building a world like that, then we'll move in that direction. I mean, like right now, one of the biggest hurdles that we have is that everything is basically run by the oil companies. So they don't want anyone cutting in on their deals. So you can't even make efficient energy technologies.
In economics, there's a well-known problem regarding economic prosperity. Employers want cheap labor, but they also want customers who can pay. Well, you can't have both, says the article. In the 1950s, Henry Ford, the second owner of the automobile manufacturer Ford, famously asked the head of the automobile union, "How are you going to get these robots to pay membership fees?" The union boss answered, "Henry, how are you going to get them to buy your cars?" Neither of them had an answer. 603-283-6160. We'll get our co-host's opinions on this. Plus more coming up. This is Free Talk Live.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in to Free Talk Live. The telephone number in the studio, if you want to join in the conversation, is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass, joining me.
Beakless Mountaineer.
And Richie Rich.
I want to tell you that Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. You can go there now and click on Get Started up at the top of the page. And once you do that, you'll find all sorts of valuable information neatly organized to suit your needs. There's no longer any excuse to ignore this important and world-changing information. We were talking last night, too, a little bit about the cryptocurrency and how just in 10 years, like how much like use has expanded. Even though the UIs still kind of suck and wallets are just getting off the ground, and working with exchanges is difficult at best, and there's fights between the government and the exchanges and the users, and with what needs to happen, and the KYC information and who privacy and all that kind of stuff. But still. Yeah. But still, like the guest we had on was able to book airfare, Airbnb, hotel, use cryptocurrency to dine and get groceries and all of that kind of stuff just in a short 10 years.
I kind of want to blame some of the Bitcoin people early on for like asking to be regulated for some of those delays.
Yeah, if you ask to be regulated, you're
going to get regulated.
Yeah,
Please, state regulators, so we know we're not breaking the rules.
Well, I mean, they haven't come up with a clear set of regulations yet. I thought that was a great analogy that you made, that this is the early years of the modem, where like it takes up your phone line and it still beeps and it's this terrible noise, but
Horrible noise.
Give it a minute. It's going to switch back over so that it reaches the point where instead of it running on the phone line runs on the internet.
So if you're already a knowledgeable crypto user, you can check out news.bitcoin.com and get the latest headlines of all the news that's relevant to you. Bitcoin.com is your source for everything crypto, like getting a wallet, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news on a very slick and easy-to-use website. Visit bitcoin.com. All right. We've got some calls. Let's go to Jill in Virginia. Jill, you're on Free Talk Live.
I don't want such a world as the one they're talking about. I think it would be ridiculous. Still, somebody would have to run the machines and know how to work them.
Maybe. Machines can be taught to program themselves.
I don't have a
what could
job
possibly
now,
go
but
wrong?
I've been trying to get one,
Skynet.
and I was proud to have a job when I had one, and I was proud to work.
I think that's a cultural shift, though. Like I don't think the current generation of workers is proud of the work that they're doing.
Yeah, Jill, why do you suppose that is, seems to not be the case? Why do you suppose people are not proud of what they do and the type of work they do?
Well, I don't know. Are you sure they're not?
Well,
I don't know. In some cases, they might not be allowed to do the work the way they think would be best. I was in a furniture factory where there was a lot of flimsy pieces of wood that I didn't want to use, and I was told I had to use them anyhow, so that would diminish my pride in the job somewhat. Still, I was proud of standing there and being faithful and not trying to get out of doing the work by malingering on the job. So
I think Jordan Peterson calls it like the dignity of work, right? Like your job needs to be dignified. And where I am sympathetic and supportive of the anti-work movement, right, is you go out, you get the job, there's supposed to be dignity in your work, right? And then the government just comes in and debases the hell out of the currency. And so all the value that you would have gotten is robbed from you. And then you look at previous generations where it wasn't that bad, right? Like the greatest generation, like my parents, whatever, like my grandparents, there was dignity in work because you got paid a wage that supported a lifestyle. And it wasn't as exotic as some of the lifestyles are now, but it was, a working class living and working class wages. And the current generation has working class living, right? But much less than working class wages.
Yeah.
When you consider the inflation and the problems with of what the government has done to the money.
Well, and just to pile on the stuff, your list of stuff, there's also been a switch from that time to this time where, for a family to support itself, it has to be a 2-income family.
I don't think
game
the
changer.
government should be making money. I think that money should be if it's such money is printed should be done by private companies, and if it should stand for a certain amount of metal and a certain amount of gold or a certain amount of silver, and if it puts the amount on that piece of paper and won't come across with it when the person comes to turn it in, then the company should be sued for criminal fraud.
So it's not a company doing it, right? But I thought this was a game changer. The news came out. We covered it on my podcast yesterday, and my other co-hosts weren't as enthusiastic about it as me. But Russia tying the ruble to gold.
I'm super enthusiastic about it.
You and me both, buddy.
It really is. It's the first step in. I mean, because this whole scam that our country is running on the entire world, including its own people, is based on the fact that the value of gold never goes up, that there's all of this phony paper gold going around, and this is finally something that will be an upward pressure on the value of gold.
I hope so. But my co-hosts were like,
the government should be allowed to print the money. I don't think it should be done by government. It should be done by private people And as long as they don't falsify it, they should be allowed to do it.
Well, and the person who did that, Bernard von Nothaus, with the Liberty Dollar, right, got shut down, jailed, prosecuted, because he was issuing paper currency backed by gold, and he was issuing the actual gold and silver rounds as well.
Yeah,
they wouldn't let him.
There's the man's name was Bernard von Nothaus, or Bernard, sorry.
Yeah.
Bernard von Nothaus, not Nothaus, Nothaus, Nothouse. You can look him up on the internet. Decade ago,
a little more.
Oh, really?
I still carry a 2008 Liberty Dollar. On me.
Yeah. So.
Well, and
that was wrong. They shouldn't have messed with him as long as there's no fraud involved.
Absolutely. It was completely unjust.
I don't think any of his customers were claiming fraud.
You could have private enterprise exchanges where people come in from one part of the country and they have one kind, another community, and you take it to an exchange where it's weighed up in a scale and maybe converted from one to the other when people want to exchange it.
Well, and that is getting created in the cryptocurrency world now. There's one called PAXG or Pax Gold that I don't know how effective it is to actually reclaim it in gold, but so far it's been effectively pegged to what the gold is worth. So I mean, it's at least
cryptocurrency is not actual metal change, then, is it?
No. But neither are the paper warehouse receipts either. You have to have trust in whoever is issuing it that they are going to redeem it for the actual metal.
Yeah. Right. It's like what you were describing, where a company will issue its own and claims to back it with gold, where if you turn it in for it, they will hand you the actual metal.
Yeah, sadly. Go ahead, Jill.
I've had silver certificates. I mean, it said on the bill, a silver certificate. However, this was some kind of antique thing. Now, I worked at a place. I worked at a curb service restaurant before. I've also spent about 20. I've also worked as a street vendor for about 27 years. And sometimes I would get these things. They're obsolete now, but there is silver certificates, but I was told you couldn't turn them in for that anymore.
Not anymore. Right. They stopped the redemption.
Yeah, some time ago.
I kept them around for a while as curiosities, but I had to give them up the night my cat died in order to pay the vet.
They are collector's items, but you used to be able to, like with the silver certificates and before, you used to be able to take that into a bank and they would turn around and give you, in your case, silver or gold, but that is no longer the case. The United States dollar hasn't been backed by anything except for the violence of the state.
Well, don't even call it the United States dollar. It's a Federal Reserve note.
That's
the United States dollar is defined in grams of silver, grains of silver.
Yeah.
Well, I never tried to turn them in for silver.
They tricked you because they made the Federal Reserve note look exactly like a silver certificate, and then nobody paid attention.
Yep. Hey, thanks for the call, Jill. We appreciate it. 603-283-6160. I don't know the monetary history of when the silver certificates stopped being manufactured, but even as a kid, I used to come upon them every now and again.
Probably in the 60s.
Well, I wasn't born yet.
Well, and the big shift was when we established a central bank, because you used to have a bunch of different banks that were as more or less effective at actually
1913,
getting you,
right?
Yeah, exactly, at actually getting you metal when you came back with their notes.
603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming up. It's the Sunday night edition.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. There's been further international condemnation of Russia after Ukraine accused Russian forces of being responsible for a massacre in the city of Bucha, near Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Photographs and videos released by Ukrainian authorities and news agencies appear to show bodies scattered in the streets of Bucha, some with their hands tied behind their backs. In an interview with CBS's Face the Nation, Ukraine's president accused Russia of committing acts of genocide in his country. Here's Volodymyr Zelensky speaking through a government interpreter.
The elimination of the whole nation and the people, this is destruction and extermination of all these nationalities.
US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken told CNN the images from Bucha were a punch to the gut. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres also called for an independent investigation into the alleged atrocities in Bucha, but Russia has denied responsibility for the killing of civilians. Here's Ollie Barrett, our correspondent in Riga, Latvia.
Russia is denying the allegations with regards to Bucha. It says that this is fake, and it also says that the Ukrainians have published these images from Bucha as a provocation. So pretty strong pushback from Moscow, but very, very strong words coming from international leader after international leader, particularly here on the European continent.
Sri Lanka's cabinet has resigned following mounting pressure over the country's spiralling economic crisis. On Sunday, several peaceful demonstrations took place in the capital, Colombo, despite a 36-hour government curfew. In the city of Kandy, police used tear gas and water cannon against protesting students. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had declared a state of emergency and blocked access to social media following violent protests last week sparked by growing public anger against his administration. People have been facing lengthy power cuts, some lasting up to 13 hours, as well as skyrocketing food prices. A severe shortage of foreign currency, partly due to a pandemic-related drop in tourism, combined with the 2019 tax cut, has meant the government hasn't been able to pay for essential imports such as fuel and medicine. A shooting in the California capital has left at least 6 people dead and 10 people hospitalized. Sacramento police are asking the public for help in identifying any suspects. Rachel Silverman has more.
Sacramento's mayor has attributed the tragedy to the epic of gun violence in the United States. The shooting occurred at about 2 in the morning local time in an area lined with bars and restaurants just blocks from the state capitol building. Video posted on social media showed people running through the street with the sound of rapid gunfire in the background. Sacramento police say they have not yet determined if the victims were deliberately targeted or how many shooters were involved.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the complexities of holding Vladimir Putin, his top advisors and individual Russian commanders to account for the war crimes that appear to have been committed in Bucha, just outside Kyiv. Our guide to the thicket in which the international community will soon find itself is Sir Mark Lyle Grant, the British government's former national security advisor.
The key first step is to gather the evidence, and that should be relatively easy, given that there are a lot of journalists present on the ground and the Russians are now withdrawing. The International Criminal Court prosecutor has started an investigation, but Russia itself, as a country, is not a member of the ICC. It pulled out in 2016, so very difficult to hold Russia directly to account. The best avenue, therefore, is that the ICC can issue individual arrest warrants when they identify those responsible for individual war crimes. But of course, those individuals, being Russian, would have to be extradited from Russia or to travel abroad and then be arrested when they were abroad. So it's going to be extremely difficult in practice to hold either President Putin or indeed any of his soldiers to account for individual crimes they've committed.
And the US government, already accusing Russia of war crimes, also does not recognise the International Criminal Court. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main headlines again. Ukraine accuses Russian forces of committing a massacre in the city of Bucha. Moscow denies the allegations, but it faces overwhelming international condemnation. Sri Lanka's cabinet has resigned following mounting pressure over the country's spiralling economic crisis. And a shooting in Sacramento has left at least 6 people dead and 10 people hospitalized. And that is the latest from Feature Story News. I'm Jagruti Dave in Washington.
Japan grants suffrage to female robots, and a hypochondriac maple tree is always convinced it has Asian longhorn beetles. The following 2 statements are true. The previous statement is false, and this is the Onion Week in Review. This week, Americans nationwide were stunned to hear horrific allegations on Wall Street revealing that numerous junior bankers have been forced to survive on a mere $6,800 per week. The findings, which implicate numerous high-profile financial institutions such as Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, and Citibank, suggest that hundreds of first-year bankers are constantly deprived of basic necessities, including penthouse apartments overlooking Central Park and regular company-financed vacations to the French Riviera.
Many of these bankers are 23 or 24 years old and don't even have access to an expense account of over $50,000 a year. Not only that, but some of them are making as little as 20 times minimum wage. I mean, this is truly disgraceful.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Our number unmute.
Wow, I unmuted both of you, but I neglected to unmute myself accidentally.
Let the important people speak.
We forgot to take full advantage of that situation. We could have had the show all to ourselves.
It would have been.
We missed our mutiny.
It would have been anarchy. 603-283-6160 is the phone number. If you would like to join us, we'll get to your calls and thoughts in just a moment. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
Peakless Mountaineer.
And Richie Rich.
So, what were we talking about?
We were talking about how people don't want to work anymore and why.
I just want to bang on the drums all day.
Yeah.
That's that song, right?
Yep.
You mentioned you wanted to opine
I
a bit.
I had a few thoughts on that one. So, I mean, part of it's definitely that, I mean, you kind of expect something back for your work, and that is just becoming less and less true.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm sympathetic towards that movement.
And that's definitely part of it. And another part that ties into that very much is that because we have so much regulation keeping anyone from entering the market and rewarding corporations for getting them larger and larger, because, you know, if you can, if we just have our own section of our corporation that does all of our printing, then we don't have to pay taxes on the printing, so on and so forth. You end up with a smaller and smaller number of companies that can employ people, and that makes the conditions worse and worse because they're not competing anymore.
There's already many industries within one sort of larger industry, you know, word that it's art, right? And within the art industries, because there are many forms of art, there is probably far more work being done for zero pay, than in any other industry. And
the starving artist is a cliche.
It's a cliche, but it's also a stereotype because it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I personally have done, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how many thousands of hours of work and creating music and rehearsing and, you know, having a job and using that money to buy gear to maintain the band and make the band go and print T-shirts and, you know, all the stuff that goes along with that, and literally never getting a return on it. right? A losing proposition. Why would somebody ever do that, you ask?
Well, what is a musician? He's the guy who loads up $5,000 of equipment into a $500 van to go to a gig to make $50.
If that.
If that.
Yeah. Many a gig was $0.
Okay.
Not even as much as a, hey, here's a couple beers for playing tonight, guys.
Well, it's because the term overnight success is a misnomer. There's no such thing as an overnight success.
Yeah,
but there's the person who slaved away for months, years, decades maybe, and then finally gets that break where they finally make it big. Yeah. And that's why you put all of this work into this thing for no return, on that hope that you'll break it over, or just because you love what you're doing.
Yeah, so, that's a hobby.
Yeah.
Right? It's a hobby. But if you enjoy what you're doing, you don't need to get paid for it. You do the other stuff to make the money to support the hobby.
I mean, that's your classification. Some people look at art as their purpose.
Okay.
Right? In order for humans to function,
sure,
they need to have a purpose.
Yeah, it might be your calling.
Right?
Well, and some of these people were going to be in favor of the article that we're reading, right? The automated luxury communism, because it allows them to act their purpose, right, without having to worry about, survival.
Well, so I think to that extent, as far as relating that to art is concerned, I think the idea of the artist has been romanticized, particularly within the context of this article.
Okay.
And that is to say that, like, people have this, like, vision, like, oh, wouldn't it be great to just have so much free time that I could just do my painting, or I could finally write my novel, or I could write that, album that I've always wanted to write, that kind of a thing, right? I think that has been romanticized so much that people are now seeing it as sort of an ideal within the context of the article.
Okay. So, question real quickly then, why shouldn't that be the ideal? Right? Why do we poo-poo on these things so much because we don't believe them to be possible? But should that not be a goal to be strived for?
Well,
right?
I'm saying
you have that free time?
No one working is impossible.
Understood.
But very few people working, I mean, in the sense of like work, like a pain in the butt to do. Like you don't actually want to do it, but you get compensated in some way for doing it. Whereas like artistry is something that you do because, well, you want to do it. Now, I am so in favor of automation. Absolutely. Like, let's get those rocks doing all of the boring stuff that we can. Get them doing all of the tedious, horrible things that upset us, and then let us do all of the things that they can't, because those tend to be the things we like doing.
All right, let's go to some calls here. We've got, this is Dan calling from Nebraska. Dan, you're on Free Talk Live. Dan.
Talk about Dumbphones, but I've been a little bit more interested in what was just being talked about, right after the break.
Sure, this is Free Talk Live. You're free to change what you called about, so go ahead.
Yeah, I think also I actually agree a lot with what you guys are saying here, because I also think I have a vision that involves automation being like pivotal in how we change the nature of work so that it's better for people. I guess I think that where we disagree maybe is that I kind of feel, in my opinion, the balance between labor and capital is really skewed in favor of capital, and I don't understand how with less government than we have now, that balance could shift in any way. Because hopefully by the time automation becomes, way more important to humanity, there's a way that the benefits of that kind of spread more equally towards everybody.
Well, having less government takes away what I call government monopolies. There are certain sectors of the market that don't exist because government claims a monopoly on them. In addition to that, government creates pseudo-monopolies by currying favor to lobbyists. So if the government did not exist, lobbyists would not be able to curry those favors. Competition would be able to come in freely, and innovation would sort of rise up.
Yeah, one of the odd things you're seeing now with the anti-work, the Great Resignation, is a reshifting of that balance. Because what I think you see when you say that it's in favor of capital right now, we would probably make the case that it's in favor of cronyism right now, where the capital is in the hands of the state, or the capitalists with the negative connotation are getting handouts from the government in some form or fashion that is giving them that advantage that they ought not have. And if you remove the state from that equation, they no longer have that advantage.
Yeah, when all of the symbol of value is coming from one spigot, then whoever is closest to that spigot is getting all of that value first.
Nice analogy.
And that's how our money system works. So if you're close to government spending, you get to spend that money before the price inflation hits. Now, the inflation of the money supply has already occurred as soon as you've got it, but you get to spend it for more value. And it just centralizes more and more wealth and power. Whereas if you have an actual system of currency that's, solid like gold or Bitcoin, then you don't have that same centralizing effect of power.
Dan?
I don't know about that. Why would gold becoming more prominent, or Bitcoin, which is stable, be something that helps everyday people who I'll just leave that question.
Well,
why would that? It doesn't seem like they have.
Let me take a shot at this by talking about what's happened recently.
Okay.
Over the last couple of years, there has been like the fight for 15, right? The push to raise the minimum wage legally to $15 an hour. And the government has come in and inflated the currency so much where that's not even enough anymore. Like, that has become the de facto pseudo minimum wage in a lot of places, even if it's not the legal minimum wage, because of the currency inflation. And if you don't have that inflation, you don't have to worry about that, and that's where the gold comes in, and the Bitcoin.
Thanks for the call, Dan. More Free Talk Live is coming up. 603-283-6160.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agrishosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agris Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agrishosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agrishosting.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for listening tonight and tuning in to Free Talk Live. We are a live call-in radio program that's also broadcast over the internet and some satellite channels where you could call, take control of the airwaves, and speak your mind outside of some regulations that we must follow from the FCC. Some certain words you're not allowed to say. No topic is taboo, so to speak.
Speak your mind. Just use appropriate language.
Yes, please. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Pickless Mountaineer.
And Rich.
We've been talking about this article from, where was it from? I don't remember.
Futurism,
thank you. About a future without work. The fully automated luxury communism.
And the documentary that I was referring to earlier was Zeitgeist,
right?
Jacques Fresco and the Venus Project.
And the guy with two first names you shouldn't trust.
Okay.
Peter Joseph.
The other guy.
Because he has two first names.
Yep.
So, let's see.
Does that mean you should extra trust someone whose first name is a last name?
I don't think so.
But Johnson Stevenson.
Right.
There is another issue that recently manifested itself. Fewer and fewer employees are required to produce more and more goods and services for an increasing number of consumers. Wages are increasing. No, they're not. And people are becoming more demanding, rightly so. Young people are not prepared to sacrifice their lives for their workplace. Well, I mean, that's assuming a lot.
I mean, it's assuming a lot, but again, there's the movement having a name, right? The Great Resignation is indicative that there might be some truth to this, right? It's not just a one-off. It's an entire group of people going like, this is stupid, and we don't really want to do this, especially for what you're paying us. Mm-hmm. Which also drives up wages for the people still working.
Well, and I think one of the things that's been behind this whole thing is that there used to be a social stigma attached to collecting government money instead of working for it.
Yep.
And that has been gone for quite a while now.
We talked about that when we was talking about shame. It needs to come back. People need to be shamed for that sort of behavior.
Yeah, because you're not getting money from the government. You're getting money because the government is stealing that money from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But again, the balance is they're stealing it from other people to give it to you, or you go to work and they steal it from you through inflationary policies.
Well, some of it.
And at the risk of being trite, Bitcoin fixes this.
I got it. So it's gold and silver and any other sort of like fixed currency.
If you fix the money, a lot of society's problems will fix themselves.
Got it. So let's do that.
There is another issue that no, we already talked about that. This article, though, assumes that people need to sacrifice their lives for their workplace. I wouldn't die to do some customer service over the phone. like sacrificing my, granted, a 40-hour work week and like overtime, like that can be overwhelming, right? You spend, half of your week, loaning yourself to somebody else in return for some money. But here's the secret that I always had to maintaining employment, and that is just follow technology, right? You don't even have to be particularly good at the technology. Just follow it. Go and work for technology companies, right? Technology companies need offices, they need employees, they have gear. So whatever it is you're good at, maybe you're the person who like vacuums up the office.
Well, that's kind of a risky situation these days, because in order for technology companies to be able to keep hiring people, you have to have an expanding economy. And right now we are moving into contraction. So like the tech stocks are the ones that get hit first.
Different sections of the economy respond differently. For example, COVID, right? Whole bunch of businesses were shut down. Whole bunch of people lost their jobs. Technology people, however, experienced a boom. Right? Because technology is what allowed people to shift to work from home models. Right? I myself was caught up in that. I found myself as a guy who was able to work from home for my day job before it was cool, before everybody got to. They tabbed me to like, hey, can you give a presentation on like, home economics and, making sure you have all the pro tips for how to work at home effectively and be productive and all that kind of stuff. And so I found myself with a new set of a new job, if you will, in this respect, of teaching other people how to do this successfully. So, and then the technology companies that were providing things like telephone services, anything that remotely resembled a Zoom call, right? All of these companies had big booms in their bottom line because all of a sudden, all of these businesses were signing up for their services, wanting to get onboarded, lickety-split, because there was a necessity in the marketplace. So we saw a shift in the market.
I think a lot of it was the caller's name, Dan, a little while back.
Yeah, the previous caller.
Some of it is confusion, misunderstanding, and I'm going to say misplaced responsibility, right? So the anti-work movement, the Great Resignation, all of that, they want to blame capital, as his words, right, or the companies for their current situation.
Right.
But if they looked at one step further, the cronyism, if they look at the state, the state is the ones debasing the money,
right,
making their work for the company less valuable than it could otherwise be.
Yes.
And I think that is really hard for people to imagine. But I mean, the kind of world we're talking about where we have good money is the kind of world where you can pay this month's rent with the equivalent of the change in your couch cushions, because the prices on everything have fallen so low and the wages have increased so much that it's just, you just naturally have an increasing amount of free time for your artistic exploits because of the increase in technology.
And technology can actually give individuals the ability to automate their own tasks for profit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you view yourself as a person, as a business, or your household even as a business, there are certain tasks that you can automate, or at least in the future will be able to automate, that could bring you a profit. Rummage sales, for example, we've already seen Craigslist sort of took over newspapers. The big, I don't want to say the name, the social media company has the buy and sell marketplace kind of thing, right? And more of this thing is happening all the time. So like these are tasks that can be automated. Also, too, with the IoT, the Internet of Things coming around, if you marry that with stuff like micropayments and cryptocurrency, all of a sudden, whenever you're not using a thing and there's, some leftover either bandwidth or some memory usage that could be applied to something else, you can rent that out for a micropayment. And now all of a sudden you're generating income by automating something, or at least allowing somebody else to use something that you're not using, unbeknownst to really anybody.
Yeah, one of the things that Dan mentioned is the whole it seems to be shifted to capital rather than labor. So if you had a deflationary currency, then what would happen is that your employer would have to go to you periodically and say, hey, is it okay if we reduce your wage by this month? So that it by this much in order to keep you employed, so that you're constantly being, asked your permission to continue working here so that I can keep the business running. It completely changes the dynamic in what I think would be a very positive direction.
It might be hubris on my point. To your point, Captain, I don't think the average person is capable of those things, right? Like they aren't taught that, and it's going to be some of the upper echelon, the elite people who are able to automate and make money while doing nothing.
I don't know. There's an app for that. Right? That's what people will do. They will create an app for all of that. And so you don't have to be that smart and that elite to make stuff like that happen in your own household. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. There's been further international condemnation of Russia after Ukraine accused Russian forces of being responsible for a massacre in the city of Bucha, near Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Photographs and videos released by Ukrainian authorities and news agencies appear to show bodies scattered in the streets of Bucha, some with their hands tied behind their backs. In an interview with CBS's Face the Nation, Ukraine's president accused Russia of committing acts of genocide in his country. Here's Volodymyr Zelensky speaking through a government interpreter.
The elimination of the whole nation and the people, this is destruction and extermination of all these nationalities.
US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken told CNN the images from Bucha were a punch to the gut. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres also called for an independent investigation into the alleged atrocities in Bucha, but Russia has denied responsibility for the killing of civilians. Here's Ollie Barrett, our correspondent in Riga, Latvia.
Russia is denying the allegations with regards to Bucha. It says that this is fake, and it also says that the Ukrainians have published these images from Bucha as a provocation. So pretty strong pushback from Moscow, but very, very strong words coming from international leader after international leader, particularly here on the European continent.
Sri Lanka's cabinet has resigned following mounting pressure over the country's spiralling economic crisis. On Sunday, several peaceful demonstrations took place in the capital, Colombo, despite a 36-hour government curfew. In the city of Kandy, police used tear gas and water cannon against protesting students. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had declared a state of emergency and blocked access to social media following violent protests last week sparked by growing public anger against his administration. People have been facing lengthy power cuts, some lasting up to 13 hours, as well as skyrocketing food prices. A severe shortage of foreign currency, partly due to a pandemic-related drop in tourism, combined with the 2019 tax cut, has meant the government hasn't been able to pay for essential imports such as fuel and medicine. A shooting in the California capital has left at least 6 people dead and 10 people hospitalized. Sacramento police are asking the public for help in identifying any suspects. Rachel Silverman has more.
Sacramento's mayor has attributed the tragedy to the epic of gun violence in the United States. The shooting occurred at about 2 a.m. local time in an area lined with bars and restaurants just blocks from the state capitol building. Video posted on social media showed people running through the street with the sound of rapid gunfire in the background. Sacramento police say they have not yet determined if the victims were deliberately targeted or how many shooters were involved.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back. It is Free Talk Live. It's the Sunday night edition. 603-283-6160 is the phone number, but You can't get in right now. The phones are packed.
Wow.
So we will get to your calls momentarily. In the studio, it's myself, the captain,
Peakless Mountaineer,
and Richie Rich.
That's right. Phones are packed Sunday, and
phone call speed round.
Yeah, we'll get to those momentarily. I have to tell you that ForkFest 2022 is coming up. You can join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual ForkFest at Rogers Campground in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. It's beautiful out there. ForkFest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. ForkFest takes place the week after PorkFest, but ForkFest is decentralized, which means there's no one in charge and there's no ticket cost. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve a camping or RV site or a motel room with Rogers Campground June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving individuals in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the ForkFest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, and those can be found at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Come party with the captain, forkfest.party. All right, let's just go to the phones. We're going to start with, we've got Jake from Ocean Shores. Jake, you're on Free Talk Live.
That's Jack, but that's cool.
Oh, Jack, sorry. My bad.
Yeah. Have you guys ever been to Eastern Oregon, like the Deschutes River?
I have not been to Eastern Oregon. I'm familiar with the Northwest, though. I used to live in Seattle for about 20 years.
Yeah, I lived in Portland, and there's a great white water rafting area over in a town called Maupin.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a real Barney Fife type of deputy there. I mean, you had to stand in the water if you wanted to have a cigarette. I mean, it was ridiculous. So I ended up getting a boating under the influence.
A BUI?
On a raft with
That's
five
not what
other
I think
people.
of when I think of Barney Fife deputies. I think of, like, ineptitude.
No,
Right? Yeah, that's the
he was
opposite.
watching me with binoculars up on top of the cliff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he ticketed me for a boating under the influence. There's no motor on a raft, and there's 5 other people.
So it didn't
Yeah,
fit
I
the
just-
definition of boating, and you were exonerated.
Yeah, well, yes, I went to court. I had to drive out to the Dalles in Oregon out there, Hood River, if you know that area. And
Yep.
drove 2 hours from Portland, and I was thinking of that case with the squash guy who marked up the court.
Oh, the pickleball
And so
guy.
that-
I got you, yeah.
Yeah. The judge looked at it, and he'd never seen anything like it before. He said, "I don't, understand." He ended up giving me so I think the squash guy it's going to be dismissed by the DA.
I guess I want to be hopeful.
I
think
hope
it will,
it is, but
I got a
I don't know. I have
$300
no hope for
fine.
Denver. None.
You got
he got
Yeah.
fined for it.
You got a $300 fine for RUI, rafting under the influence?
Well, it was a BUI. It was a year in jail and up to a $10,000 fine.
Ouch.
That's the ticket he gave me.
Ouch.
Brutal.
Hey, thanks for the call, Jack. We appreciate it. Rafting under the influence.
We need to stop those dangerous criminals who drink beer and fish.
More so that the pickleball guy is going to have some sort of, like, violence done to him by the state, whether it's extortion or jail.
All right. It looks like Rich in Indiana dropped off, so let's move right along. Let's go to...
See, there can be only one.
Let's go to Rob.
Two in your name alone. That's not fair.
Let's go to Rob in Vermont. Rob, you're on Free Talk
doing,
Live.
guys?
Good. What's on your mind?
Hey, so there is another job that's out there that people can do, and it's not promoted enough.
Okay, what is it?
And I think that this is the kind of work that's going to save the younger generation. But you got to legalize cannabis first.
I mean, they're pushing it on the federal level. We'll see what happens.
Right, but that's the thing because look at all the things you can get out of using cannabis. I mean, you can make fuel, clothes, all of that kind of stuff.
Paper,
it's
rope,
inevitable,
plastic.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, the other reason why I called is that I wanted the guys know that there's a new cannabis store that's opening up in Bellows Falls.
Do you know, now I've heard of this going on. Do you know if it's going to be recreational or is it just, the old, you got to get a doctor to write you a note and be a patient?
I think it's going to be both.
Interesting. I hadn't heard that recreational was on, any ballot for Vermont, but I don't necessarily pay attention to Vermont either, even though I live.
And why would you?
I mean, it's on the other side of us, really, on the other side of the river, so it's not that far.
Right.
Well,
I try to ignore all the surrounding states as much as possible.
Are you going to go get a job there, Rob? Is that what your plan is?
I don't know, not because I'm just going to I grow my own dope, so,
Amen to that, brother. Hey, thanks for the call tonight. We appreciate it.
Well, I will tell you, all the states around us have legalized marijuana, so... all those places that don't have a pathologically opposed governor.
I have hopped in the old motor vehicle and buried the needle and went to the state to our south and the state to our east, and both times was able to acquire said marijuana while I was there because, they have it recreationally available.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that pathological governor is he's like the barrier to state income tax.
Yeah, he's the only one that we can get in that will stop that from happening. It's terrible.
Let's go to Major Payne in Michigan. Major, you're on Free Talk Live.
Lesser of evils, man.
Hey, good evening, guys. Well, let's see. I was listening to Clay and Buck the other day, the guys that took over Rush Limbaugh's time slot, and they were talking about trying to introduce a phrase telling you to go Fauci yourself. And I thought it should be simplified and just cut down to like Fauci off or Fauci you. But anyway, I too have buried the needle on more than one occasion. A Charger went to $150 and a Galaxy went to $120, and I pegged them both.
Nice.
That Charger scared me.
I once
got her up to about I got her up to about $1.50, and she already had 150,000 miles on her, and so the front end started shimmying.
Ooh, yeah.
I had to back her down. I still had 3/4 of an inch of pedal. I think that thing probably would have done 220.
A friend of mine, actually not of mine, a friend of what would be my brother, for lack of a better way to explain that. A friend of my brother's who was older than me, his brother drove in NASCAR and worked in the pits, the pit stop
pit
type,
crew.
Pit crew, and he owned it was I want to say a 72 CUDA with a 446 pack, whatever that is. I'm not a gearhead, so but sounds
that's
all
3 2-barrels.
Yeah, that sounds all and it purred and it was super fast. It was the only time I've ever seen a vehicle because the dude took me for a ride in it, and when he put the hammer down, so to speak, stepped on that accelerator, it kicked in, and I was, thrown back into my seat.
Felt the G's.
And you could watch the speedometer go up as the gas gauge went down.
One of my favorite YouTube videos is a Hellcat outrunning the police helicopter.
Ooh, wow.
Right?
That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
They zoomed in, and he was gone.
Other thoughts, Major?
Well, I never outran a helicopter, but I did outrun a trooper in my Galaxy one time.
I got away from a trooper in a Corolla.
I got away
That's
with
not all that impressive.
You got away from a trooper with beer?
In a Corolla.
Oh, Corolla.
No. In my old, I had a Galaxy 500 to 68 with a 390 in it. She was pretty quick.
Wow.
But
I just cornered.
Anyway, our lovely president has agreed to release 1 million gallons of oil from the reserves per day here on this fuel fiasco.
Yeah.
Oh, how generous of our overlord to bestow upon us the gift of oil in which he's been sandbagging and hanging on and not allowing the market to actually determine the price on.
Yeah, it's almost like he's trying to cover up the price fixing that he did in the first place.
Back in the Trump administration, he was the only one that since World War II topped off the Federal Reserve. And he did it for like $37, $39 a barrel.
Hey, thanks for the call tonight, Major. Appreciate it.
Well, it's not like we're heading into uncertain times where that might come in handy.
603-283-6160. More of your calls and thoughts are coming up on tonight's edition of Free Talk Live. The final segment is moments away.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power, but there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
Wow. It's like you've done this before, Richie.
That's my shtick, man. Stole that from a Saturday Night Live skit.
I used to play the video game Madden NFL, right?
Who hasn't?
And for a while there, they had, like, if you paused the game, every time you unpaused the game to come back and play, it would say something like, "Welcome back." And then if you hit pause right away after they said that and then hit unpause, it would say something different. And so if you just did that enough, you would eventually cycle through all, I think there was 12 or 14 of them or something.
Impressive at the time.
Yeah, and so it's like, welcome back. Let's get back to the field. Now let's get back to the game. Let's get back to the play on the field. Welcome back to the play on the field, right? And it was all these different iterations of the same thing over and over and over again.
Nope, I don't iterate. I just shout, and we're back.
You do, and you do it well.
Thank you.
In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Pigless Mountaineer.
And Richie Rich.
We have to take a moment before we get to your calls to say thank you to the Garbage Man. Or is it Carbage Man? It looks like it says Carbage Man.
Dirty Dan the Garbage Man.
Carbage Man, C-A-R-B-A-G-E, who is a silver level amplifier. What is an amplifier? Well, it's somebody who finds value in this particular radio program that you're listening to right now, finds so much value in it that they want to help us get this program onto more radio stations so that the message of freedom, liberty, prosperity, and peace can be spread more effectively. We're on 190-ish, maybe 200 radio stations now. We could be on 250. We could be on 300 or even more radio stations.
All of the stations.
It's up to you. Go visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. That's where you can find out how you can amp this program. There's some perks. It's a Patreon account there. There's some perks for the levels, and you can get some cool stuff depending on what you contribute. But the reason you should want to contribute is that you find value, you enjoy the hosts, the co-hosts, and the message of freedom, liberty, peace, and prosperity. Please consider becoming an amplifier over at amps.freetalklive.com. All right, let's go to Richard in New Mexico. Richard, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking my call. We had a woman on the radio show this morning here in Albuquerque that talked about speeding bans and red light cameras, and she quoted some statistics from last year, and in Albuquerque, they had close to 390 people that got injured. They were pedestrians, and 35 pedestrians got killed. So she had some suggestions on how to cut down the rate that maybe other cities in America would be interested in. She suggested that... Was
it Sarah by any chance?
No, unfortunately, she hasn't been hit yet. But this woman, yeah, you have no idea, 24 hours a day. But this woman had suggestions to reduce pedestrian fatalities and injuries, and that was for cities to build more bicycle paths.
Oh, yeah.
To reduce the traffic lanes for cars so cars would slow down that way.
Just ban cars and make everyone take the bus.
Ugh.
Well,
the shame train?
Well, New Mexico and Albuquerque, after January 1st, you don't pay to ride the metro buses here. That's a one-year trial to increase ridership and reduce pollution was their two main ideas.
Yeah, so cities have done this before, and in fact, when I first moved to the Seattle area in the late 90s, riding the bus in the metropolitan area, or at least the downtown corridor, was completely free for anybody. You just got on the bus and you got off at whatever stop you wanted to. The problem that they had, of course, was that in the wintertime, the homeless people would just get on the bus and stay there and just ride the circuit. They'd get off at, whenever the bus driver had enough.
Nice and warm.
Yeah. And so then, of course, they were like, well, we're going to have to start taxing the riders by making them pay a fee, and that will deter the homeless people from getting on. Well, the homeless people were, there's all sorts of charities and things, and so they found workarounds where they would go and get a bus pass from a local charity, and the problem continued. So they didn't solve the problem at all. The problem that I have in this scenario is, of course, their attempt to prevent homeless people from using their free service. Right? Like, your service is supposed to be free. Tax money, you've already stolen from people to pay for the buses, and now you want people to pay more on top of that. It's just it's my same beef with toll roads. Right? Taxpayer money has already paid for the roads. You should not tax them again.
I think those homeless people really highlight the free rider problem.
Bingo. Yeah.
Yeah,
I see what you did there.
Surprisingly, after the city of Albuquerque passed the free bus fares, there really wasn't that much of an increase in homeless people riding the buses that much. I was somewhat worried about it because I do a lot of bus riding, and there's homeless people, of course, that are on the streets that don't exactly smell like Chanel No. 5.
Yeah.
And, yeah, some of those people. So I thought more of the street homeless people would be riding the buses, but their ridership didn't go out. Plus, here in Albuquerque, they don't let the homeless people ride the whole bus route. They have to get off, and if they want to get back on the bus going the other way, that's how they solve that
a
problem of a lot of the homeless people hogging the bus seats.
Right.
So,
well, if they just go back and forth and have a bus pass, right? You can't really stop them.
Hey, Richard, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. So, one final word about homeless people. A lot of people seem to forget the second part of that term, people. The homeless people are people. Most of them are as harmless as you and I when it comes to being in public and that kind of a thing. It is an exercise in tolerance of individuals at different points in their lives. You should not be afraid of homeless people, right? A lot of people get, oh my God, homeless people, right? They get creeped out or whatever, somebody who smells a little bit or has like the dreadlocks because they can't afford a haircut or whatever, or they're suffering from mental illnesses of different varieties and that kind of thing. So just remember, people, to be compassionate when it comes to homeless people, because not everybody is as fortunate as everybody else.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of those points where the government claimed that it would solve our problem, so no one else is trying that hard. They declared war on poverty, and doesn't seem that they're winning.
Let's go to David in New Mexico. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, you can say she on the radio, right?
I can, yes.
Okay.
Depends what you say after it.
Well, you can say muffer. That's FCC legal.
I don't know what a muffer is.
Well, it would be one who muffs.
Okay.
It's that person who gets the actress ready before the shoot.
Oh, that's a fluffer.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's a different. Yeah, that's different, man. That's different. Hey, I saw Snoop Dogg on an airplane today. Oh, speaking of that, what's the longest word in the Black Dictionary?
I don't know. I can tell you the longest word in Webster's dictionary when I was going to school used to be pneumono-ultramicroscopic silica volcanoconiosis, which is known as black lung. It's a disease of inhaling quartz dust. And I know this because I used it to win a spelling bee in 8th grade.
Wait, you spelled that one?
Yes.
Nice.
It's not as hard as it seems. You just break it down into smaller words. Pneumono, it's like pneumonia. Ultra, microscopic, silica, volcano, coniosis.
Yeah, the spelling rules for Latin is pretty consistent, really. Not quite German levels consistent, but not bad.
David, I'm sure you're going to tell us the answer whether we want it or not.
Yeah. Well, German words don't count anyway because their words are actually sentences. So that Germans they don't count. Yeah, they don't count.
They don't ever hyphenate.
No.
Well, it's because the Germans had beer, right? So they were writing their language all.
You clearly know nothing of the German language. It is precise and efficient and well engineered.
Hey, David, you'll have to get back to us later, man. That is the end of the show. We are out of time. The shortened version of that long word, though, is silicosis. All right, so if you ever get diagnosed with black lung. We're out of time. Visit us at freetalklive.com to see our archives. Thanks for everyone for participating, and peace.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build.